All right, what's up, good people? Yeah, welcome aboard. Welcome back to the Grown Man Hour with Bernard Riley. Just had a funny conversation in the back chat. Some of y'all probably saw that typo. If you've ever typed in the word "how" on your cell phone or on a keyboard, you type in that "ho" and that the E is right next to the W. So sometimes when you try to type in "how," you accidentally type in a word that I'm trying not to mess up the algorithm early on, but the garden tour. So I had the garden tour in my title. I don't know if y'all saw that, but it was very funny. But I changed it already to how. But anyway, we're about to get into a good conversation with Nathan Daley, a police officer who's about to give us a lot of game. Give us a lot of game on this. Going to be talking about a number of topics, not just with women, but a lot of things. We're about to get into a lot of it. So without further ado, let's get ready to go. Let's where we at? Where we at? Where's the intro? Let's get
Peace, folks. This is X from TPOT Media. Open your mind and wake your black ass up. You know what time it is. Hit that damn like button as you make your way in the door. Grab a seat, settle in, get ready. It's the Grown Man Hour with your host, my man, Bernard Riley.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Mumia Obsidian Ali. You know who I am. I need no introduction, right? And you're listening to the Grown Man Hour with my man Bernard Riley, heard weekdays right here on YouTube. What do you think about that? How about that? Now let's get back on with the show. Thank you.
all right. We are back in the building. I see my man Hoop Jargon down there dropping the super chat on it bright and early. Shout out to you, man. We got to have a good show today. Getting my earpiece ready to go. About to bring up my special guest. Before I do that, just want to say shout out to the early bird squad. Those of you that make it in bright and early before we even get things started. I do know I appreciate you. Stoic One came through. Blessings be our in chat. Gail at night, and since Gail is already in there, let me go ahead and do a little bit of get a link dropped to the special guest. That's Nathan Daley's YouTube. Oh shit, I dropped it back in the back chat again. That's Nathan Daley's YouTube channel right there that I just dropped. Yeah, so y'all can go ahead and flood that out through the chat room throughout the course of the show. Y'all know how we do things here. But shout out to Gail. Appreciate you coming through. Appreciate you the work you do for Black YouTube. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. Shout out to Snuggles. Says hashtag women can do no wrong. I agree. They just need better leadership from men. Yep. I agree. They just need men to do a better job at telling them to do stuff that they're not going to do. All right, Aaron B in the building. Shout out to you. Appreciate that. Appreciate you coming through. Body Thug in the building. Xavier in the building. Shout out to Xavier. Whenever I say Xavier, I'm thinking brother Xavier from the Prophet of Thought series, but it's some other Xavier. Shout out to you too. Shout out to you too. Uneducated Lane, one of the best names on YouTube. Shout out to you. Lowcast in the building. Salute. Sincere cracking up. Says good morning, y'all. Happy holidays. Absolutely. Gail at night already acknowledged Gail and worked my way all the way down to, he says, men and women both wrong. Snuggles. Nope. Only women. KD in the building. Shout out to KD. Definitely appreciate that, brother. Always coming through. And Hoop Jargon came through. Shout out to that brother. That big 6'6" Lamar Odom looking dude. I just playing. We met him at the Manosphere meetup. Cool, brother. Shout out to you. Thank you for the $2.
These last $2, I'm not gonna lose.
And shout out to Michael Ross in the building. Appreciate you coming through, dropping something on it. Appreciate everybody who support the stream. A lot of y'all coming through, dropping something on it. Appreciate Corey DeMarcus Draper in the building with the I got 5 on it. Shout out and salute. All right, let's get it. All right, we're gonna bring up the special guest of honor, the man of the hour. Shout out to the lead attorney down there in the building. Shout out to the lead attorney. Always gotta roll out the red carpet and drop the Coming to America rose petals when a lead attorney pull up in here, man. Brother is killing it. Is he at 200K subs yet? Is he at 200K? I don't know. He probably there. He probably there already. He's like, he go to sleep, he wake up with 5,000 more subs. Like, shout out to the lead attorney. I still got pre-recorded content that me and him did. I'm going to be dropping out. Periodically. He said, oh, he said, all right, now read my donation. Keep it rocking. My bad. Okay, hold on. Johnny Taylor requests to start my day, please. Johnny Taylor requests to start my day, please. I don't understand. What is Johnny Taylor? I'm lost on that one. Hold up. I think. Wait a minute. Give me a second. I don't know if oh, that's hold up. Yeah, that's the dude who, see, I forgot the name of the dude who do the last $2 song. I just had to Google it. I wasn't 100% sure, but that's him. Okay, cool. I forgot the name of the dude to do the song. I listened to the song. It's on my playlist. It goes hard. I just forgot. I just forgot the name. I forgot his name, but it's on my playlist. Last $2 goes hard. I got to play it again for that reason right there.
These last $2, I'm not gonna lose.
All right. So without further ado, I want to bring up the special guest, Nathan Daley. Just mentioned lead attorney. I think this is where I first saw it. I did see you on the lead attorney. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's where I meet everybody on the lead attorney channel. That's where everybody at. So definitely shout out to you. Thank you for coming on through.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And shout out to the lead attorney. Great brother, man. I appreciate all that he's doing and also all that he's done for me. Great inspiration. So definitely motivating. I'm trying to leave my presence just like how he's doing his, and be a light for a lot of us men in this space as well, when it comes to these topics. So
right. No, definitely. I just you got a YouTube channel, right? So I mean, I'm dropping a link to it. Is it just starting out? Like, how did you get all into this? When did you start doing content?
Yeah, so I started probably mid-October starting YouTube. And it's funny, before I got started, I actually consulted with TLA. He was
Yeah, I was just about to ask you where you were
yeah.
part of his. I just joined his Patreon. You're giving a lot of good game for
He gave-
YouTube.
he
Like
gave
I
us a lot of
thought I
game.
knew what I was doing, and I kind of do, but
Yeah.
it's still like a little. It's so many gems that he dropping on there that even me being in the game a couple years, I'm still I'm learning. I'm still learning some stuff. So yeah, shout out to the lead attorney. He basically teaching the whole YouTube game on
Right.
his Patreon. So yeah, I said it once, I say it again. If you're starting out, either you're starting a YouTube channel or you're early on in the process, if I'm getting benefit from it,
Correct.
then yeah, you definitely will get a lot of benefit from it if
Correct.
if you're starting out, if you're just getting started. So yeah, I highly recommend is joining the lead attorney's Patreon. A lot of good info on there. But go ahead.
Absolutely. I definitely second that. And we had a great conversation. He was very honest. And it was good. And again, I always say this when people ask me, I say, apply what he's telling you. A lot of times people have a lot of good information, they share it, but we don't apply it. So that's the key. The key is make sure you apply it. And on top of that, I think, my content's very unique and it's different. It's very controversial. And so I was hesitant, not really sure how to start, how to kind of get people to kind of listen in and tune in. And so the advice he gave was extremely helpful, you guys. So I really appreciate the advice that he gave. So I started mid-October, and my content is surrounded by law enforcement encounters and also the relationship that the community, the citizens have with law enforcement in this country, especially the Black community. That's key. And, as I'm a Black, obviously I'm Black, so as a Black police officer, 13 years, I've spent half my career, I would say, on policing in the Black community. And I spent the other half, I would say I spent a smaller portion policing in predominantly white communities. And so I have the experience of both sides.
We got to get the breakdown of the difference between those two things. But before we even get into that, you said you started your YouTube channel in October?
Yes.
Like this October of this year?
Correct, this October.
Damn, when you get 5,000 subs from that fast.
Man, just applying TLA's teachings. Applying TLA. Yeah, and but there's I speak to a lot of issues. These are real issues that people have concerns about when it comes to law enforcement. As we know, it's a hot topic. Not so hot right now at the moment. But there are some things in the news that's coming up. We just finished the Ahmaud Arbery case and the trial against McMichaels, and then now currently we have the active trial against Officer Potters from Dante Wright's case. And so people have questions in our community. People are like, hey, listen, we're not okay with these interactions. We're not okay with these outcomes. And so I call myself the law enforcement translator, just basically saying that I'm here as an agent to represent both sides, because I'm pro-Black. And at the same time, I'm pro law enforcement. So I feel like I'm in a very unique place to be able to basically kind of to be an agent in between both sides and say, hey, let's broker a deal. But before we do that, we need to do it on a foundation of truth, because there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation that's out here, thanks to the media, as we know. And also there's a myth that a myth cloud, as I like to put it, that hovers over the Black community. We have a portion of our community that knows the myth is a bunch of BS. And then there's another portion of our community that thinks that the myth is reality. And so, as you know, Bernard, that perception is reality. And so focusing on giving our community and others who have issues with law enforcement an opportunity to speak their truth, and listen, and then give me an opportunity to explain. And so far it's been working out really well. Yeah.
Good stuff. So let's start right there.
All right.
Policing in the Black community. And I did a show with Officer Faulkner. Right? He's a brother in this space. I don't know if you know him. Charles Faulkner is Charles. I think his YouTube name is I think it's just type in Charles Faulkner Jr. I think you'll find him. Okay. But I call him Officer Faulkner, a good brother. Okay. We had a stream. We did a stream called do black police officers treat black people worse than white police officers? So we dig into those controversial topics like that. So so we know we're no stranger to that over here. But so policing in the black community,
right?
Policing in the black community. What would you say? I'll start with a broad general question and just see where you go with it. What would you say the experience just overall just like just explain your day to day, and then we're going to get into just the differences when you're policing in other communities, just your overall interactions with the people. Do you feel like it's more respect that they're giving you, less respect? Do you think it's more so just go into that, just the positioning of a black cop policing black people. Do they treat you differently, or do they expect you to treat them differently? They expect you to let them slide on more stuff. Like what? So break that down.
Man, that's a good question. Remember all of those too, because I'm not gonna remember all of those. You have to repeat some of that.
Yeah. I threw too much out there. I didn't know which way I wanted to go. I just threw all the spaghetti against the wall. Some of it gonna stay.
It's all good. That's a good question. So what it was like, I had a great experience policing in the black community. It wasn't negative. It wasn't negative. What it did show me is what areas in our community need to be addressed, right? You start seeing where there's the economic problems and how that creates a multitude of other problems, right? And I think it shines light on other issues that aren't being addressed within our own community. And so you get a chance to see how important the dynamic of family is, how important the dynamics of education is, health, right? You start seeing all these other social issues that need to be a priority amongst us in our community that aren't being addressed. And I think what I see in our community, of course, I worked in an area where it was mid-level crime. So I worked in DeKalb County in Georgia, and DeKalb County had areas, there were pockets where the crime was higher than others.
Hold on. Before you get into that, define what is mid-level crime. You use that term. What is mid-level crime?
No real definition for it off the top of my head, just talking. I would say the best way to explain it is where, as officers, we would, for example, we patrol a particular area, right? We have different zones that we patrol in, different precincts. You familiar with the concept of how precincts work? What state are you in, Bernard?
Michigan.
You're in Michigan. All right. So say you have Michigan, I guess, state police. And they are in charge of the entire state of Michigan. Then you have counties and you have cities, you have different municipalities in that state. So for example, where I worked, I worked in a county, and in that county, it was divided up, as you could say, maybe like a pie. So if you look at the county as being a pie, and there was 4 slices, slices, each slice represents a police precinct. Meaning that's just a general area. We can say north, south, east, and west. I worked the east side. So the east side, the crime was very moderate, right? Like the volume of crime, the level of violence was very moderate compared to maybe the south. The south was our busiest precinct.
Why was the south more busy than the east?
I would say the balance of
just go ahead and say, hold on, just go ahead and say, because there's more black people over there. Just go ahead and say it. It's okay. You can say it.
The socioeconomic status in that area, that when you look at that, right? You had middle class. I worked in an area where it was more middle class African Americans, right? So I worked in a predominantly middle class area. And then the South, you had a different demographics of the economics were, the socioeconomic status was a lot lower. So of course there's a correlation with that in crime. And so the crime on the South side was extremely high. It was extremely busy. And I think when we're working in these areas, what people fail to realize is that the people causing the crime is a small percentage of
I agree with that.
of the people in the community. So though you might have a low socioeconomic area, you could say there's maybe a 5%, and that's just me just guesstimating, but just the idea that say only 5% of the community is partaking in crime. So the people who are calling the police want the police there. And so
Yeah.
we always have to remember that. And so in the area where I worked, again, I worked in a middle class area. So the crime was very moderate, but it was there. And so my relationship with the community was healthy. A lot of officers' relationship was a healthy relationship. Where we come into conflict is where you come across certain people who they themselves are not they're not criminals by any means, but they have a negative perception towards police. And so they might not be doing anything wrong. They're just hardworking individuals. They don't like the police because of maybe a bad experience they may have had, maybe their friends, family have had in the past, or simply what they see on TV, or the rhetoric that's pushed out in our community. So the problem with that is when I stop them or another officer stops them and you have an encounter with them, you're already dealing with a lot of some sort of like resentment from the get-go. Before, it's like it'd be something as simple as a expired tag or a broken tail light. Then you're already met with some resistance, whether it's male or female, because there's this natural kind of instinctive distrust for police in our community. But it's not everybody. It's not everybody. But so that is the relationship sometimes we'd have. And it's understandable.
And let me get a brief timeout. Go easy on the hide button. Just time them out. The person who said that just came in here, called everybody some coons or whatever. Yeah, just time them out real bad. We don't gotta hide them. We don't gotta hide them. At least not yet. At least not yet. I've seen that person before, and there's some people that I rock with that think that we some coons over here. So so I let that ride a little bit.
Yeah. Tell them to cam up. That's I always say, if you want to speak your truth, come on up here.
You know what? I think I saw Jason Black do that. If somebody come in and they say something outlandish, the new rule is I think you say you got X number of time to come up here and defend your position.
Correct.
Failure to do so, then you're blocked. So I think I may start employing that rule. If you got some controversial opinion from the peanut gallery, come on up and defend it. Come on up and defend it. Yeah.
I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. I like it's freedom of speech. Come on here, but come correct.
Where I'm at with it, I like disagreement. Mm-hmm. Like I it's people in my chat room that got wrenches that all they do is just come in and just hate on my channel. They got wrenches. Like I'm that open to the conversation, but I think I'm gonna start getting rid of them people. If they don't come up, don't start coming up and defending their position, then I'm gonna have to start sending people packing, because I'm getting a little annoyed by it. But JC in the building with the $5 super chat, appreciate that. See Houdini Unchained, he super chatted and got hit.
Yeah. Houdini. Houdini.
That's the person who got hit, but he's super chatting. See, that's why I rock with everybody. Come on, absolutely. In, come on. But he says, Nathan, it was a pleasure being on your first live. So much great information, and I agree that it says a lot that we can't police our own communities. What do you think you mean by that? That we can't police our own communities? Because you are policing, like you said, you were policing your own community. Nothing stopping from black people from being cops and policing black neighborhoods. So what do you mean by we can't? I hate that word, can't. What do you mean?
Okay, so on my live stream, we had a discussion about policing and the issues in regards to what we have a lot of complaints in certain segments of our community. It's not all of us. We already know. I always like to preference with that. But there is a group in our community that don't like the police. They don't trust the police, and I completely understand their position. And but I always encourage, if you don't like what's going on, then stand up and do something about it. Right. The issue that we have in our community is that we're lacking in a lot of areas of leadership. So if you can't say you dislike a certain group of people in this country, right? White, Asian, Hispanic, doesn't matter. You say, you know, white supremacy and systemic racism. We have these talking points. Okay, I hear what you're saying. I agree 100. I agree with what your issue is. But then my comeback is always going to be, okay, what are you doing about it? You know, and so when I see, I was on a live stream with TLA and I made a statement and said, a gentleman was complaining about the incarceration rate of African Americans, saying 38%. It's a shame. It's unacceptable. I agree with him. I hate it. But the reality is, a lot of us.
I want to make. Hold on, wait. Let me make something very clear. That incarceration rate, and please hold your thought on the point.
Go ahead.
That 38% incarceration rate. I don't like when people throw that out because it implies that, as far as I know, it implies when they throw it out reckless like that, it implies like 38% of black men are in prison. That's not the stat.
It's not accurate. Correct.
That 38% incarceration rate, I think they're just referring to some type of criminal record, not necessarily prison. Just you like I've spent the night in county jail over a DUI before.
Okay.
Like am I in that one? Am I in that 38% based off that? I don't know. See, that's the type of stuff that I like to ask, because that 1 out of 3 stat never exactly seems right. Like I get in a room with a random, with a random 6 black men and be like, hey, who's been to prison? 2 of them not going to raise their hand. It's like that's not how it works. But so I've been a little confused about that stat, but I didn't mean to throw you off where you.
No, you're fine. There's two different data points on that. There's one that actively, if you go to I forgot the name of the list of the statistic, but there's I want to say it's the prison correctional U.S. correctional system or whatever, data system, whatever. It'll show you the current accurate number from an ethnicity standpoint, and that way we can get more of an accurate. So there's different data points you can look at based on what argument you're trying to make. But the reality is there's too many of us in there.
Yeah, that part is true. That part is true.
And then so I made a statement saying that, but according to the American Bar Association, out of all the attorneys that we have in this country, only 5% of them are African American. So when we look at, there's more defendants that go through the court system than there are attorneys present in court. We start looking at there's a concern there. When you see in officers, there's approximately 700,000 police officers that actually serve this country, 700,000. And out of that, only about 11 or 12% are African American. So you look at where all our police officers, what are the black men and women doing? Why don't we want to be in this profession? If we can get applicants to become officers to even contribute to our own communities, there's a benefit to that. There's a huge benefit to that. But the question is, we have a culture that is actually pushing against that narrative. Right. I'm called an Uncle Tom. I'm called a coon for being a police officer. I'm called a slave catcher. Right. So, can you imagine? I work in a predominantly black community, and I'm addressing someone doing something wrong, and that gentleman or that woman is African American, and I'm called a slave catcher. I'm said, they say I'm working for the white man, and at the time I said, well, the police chief is black, right? All the supervisors here in this precinct are black. The board, education board, the CEO was black at the time. So black police chief, black CEO, right? We have a predominantly black education board, county commissioners, the whole 9 yards. So who's white that I'm working for, right? So there's this illusion again, where we use those things as a way to avoid accountability. And a lot of times, and instead of saying, hey, how about we rise to the occasion? You don't like what you see in officers, then become one and do a better job, right? And that's not to dismiss that there's officers that are giving problems, not at all. But as a community, only 12% of police officers in this country are African American. Then we're complaining about the encounters that we have with white officers. Then I would suggest that we need to encourage our people in our community to rise to the occasion and put the uniform on, do a better job.
All right.
you know?
No, absolutely, absolutely, and it shows that there's an issue of delayed gratification. You
Mm,
see that there's a problem going on. You have like some of the people complaining have kids. You should be raising your kids to go grow up and be police officers. It's not going to solve the problem tomorrow, but 10
correct.
years you've
Yes,
contributed to fixing the problem. But
absolutely.
look, Gail and RM, y'all got to chill with the timing out because I like some of the detraction. Okay, a Maddie Media says if justice was even, we would be 15% of the prison population. I say that's nonsense because if the crimes that are being committed are not,
Correct.
if we were committing 15% of the crimes,
That's
if we
true.
were committing 15% of the murders, 15% of the muggings,
Correct.
15% of the breaking and entries, 15% of the carjacking,
Right.
50. If that was the case, then yes, you would be right. You would be
That's true.
absolutely right. But
That's
seeing as
true.
it's an imbalance in terms of that, and we could talk about all the reasons why there's an imbalance in terms of that. That's a better conversation, you know.
Right.
But
Right.
just to say that across the board it's supposed to be 15%, like no, it's just based on crimes committed. Now there's some nuance there. I'm not going to deny the nuance to it,
Right.
but that's just a blanket statement that just flat out does not work. Well, let me
Not
get to the
true.
super chats before we dig back into this. Sir Tyson in the building. He says, "What's up, Bernie? Salute to bro Nathan. What are your thoughts on domestic?" We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that because that's kind of low key in the thumbnail. We said, "What are your thoughts on domestic disputes and the perception that officers talk to the black woman first as opposed to the other groups talking to the man first?" Good question.
I got a good one on that too. Remind me to make a note.
You got to do a show on that on your channel.
No, I want to make sure I don't forget my thought.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, culture.
No, go ahead and answer that right now.
Okay, so in reference to that, throw that question back up real quick.
Okay, yeah.
And then before we jump on that one, and I appreciate you for that as well.
Sir Tice, that's my man, Sir
Tice.
Tice. Yeah,
All right, that's
good brother, good brother.
Tice. What are your thoughts on domestic abuse and the perception that officers talk to black women first? So I talk to the complainant first. So whoever called the police is the person that I address first.
Okay.
And I take it case by case. So if I go on a scene and the person who's the most aggressive, I try to separate and have the conversation with first. Because my goal is to separate the one that's the most aggressive in the moment from the person that isn't. So I like to talk to them first. And the reason why, again, this is all psychology, you guys. And the idea is that if you're already upset and an officer's going there and they direct their attention to the person who isn't as upset, it also can fuel and entice that person even further. So I like to give my attention to the person who seems to be the most agitated at the time. And that's just through experience and practice, because I had experiences where I go and the guy is really, really upset, but he wasn't the caller. And so I go in there and I go and talk to the woman because she was the caller. And then he's like, "Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Y'all come here and just get the woman's, jump on her side and blah, blah, blah." Because in all honesty, you don't know what's going on. And so you have to be careful, because the moment you show any signs of favoritism, you can lose, right? And so I would practice going to either the complainant first or go to the most agitated and try to get them to get on their side. Because when I go on a scene or when I'm investigating or when I'm talking to people about anything, I go into a situation trying to understand their truth, trying to understand what it is they're right about, not what they're wrong about. And having that approach alone changes the dynamic of the situation. And so, to be honest with you, every officer investigates differently. I consider myself to be a very good investigator, but that's only because I train well. I take the opportunity to try to understand people, which is very key in this job. Again, I tell people my job is kind of no different than like a server. I'm a servant, I'm a servant. And you can tell how good an officer is based on how well they understand that concept and their ability to serve others. Because when you look at the profession from the eyes of a servant, you look at everything differently. And so I would say to you, it's unfortunate, but all police officers are created differently. And because of that, that's why everybody has so many different experiences. I wish there was a moment, right? You know how I got to let my ego kick in sometimes and say, I wish they could just clone me and let me be the cop for our community, because then everything would work out really swell, right?
Yeah.
This isn't Clone Wars, so we can't do that. But the whole idea that unfortunately all officers are different and you don't know what quality or level of experience of an officer you're going to get in a situation when you call them.
Right. And Houdini Unchained, who got hidden and then timed out, makes a statement that I agree with. We need to invest in our young boys to fix this. Absolutely, absolutely. And Gail at Night in the building says, shout out to BR and Nathan. This is going to be a great interview. Nathan is awesome. Yeah, I think they came in. They don't time people out like this, man. They riding for you, man. They ain't somebody say the little smallest little thing about Nathan. They getting timed out. Yeah, Gail and RM riding for you, man. They riding for you.
Shout out to Gail. She is a blessing, man. She is a
Black man unfiltered, new to the platform, looking forward to having a conversation with you. Oh, and by the way, did you share this on your go ahead, make sure you share this on your community tab if you can. I don't know if you got, well, yeah, you got 5,000 subs. You got a community tab. Yeah, go on and share that.
Yeah, let me do it now. How do I do it?
Just go to the stream. It's I'm pretty sure
I got it.
It's a share button, and then and it should say create post. That way, bring some of your 5,000 subs on over here.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Absolutely. I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, okay. He says, new to the platform, looking forward to having a conversation with you. Your content is the truth. Hey, thank you very much. I definitely appreciate that, and appreciate you coming through, putting 5 on. Broke Genius in the building says, shout out to Tyreese, little brother. Damn. Yo. Hey, hold on. We need you to we need you to do this, man. We got to zoom in on you, and you gotta give us a, what more do you want from me? Like, I'm just you ain't gotta do it. You ain't gotta do it.
I'm just a baby boy. Hey, you know what's funny? I get that back when I didn't have this beard. Man, if y'all saw a picture, I get it all the time. All the time.
Right on. Okay, that's what's up. I mean, you was getting all the pussy. All right, anyway.
Listen, when I went to Poland on vacation, man. Got off the plane, they thought I was Tyreese, and I just played right into it. So shout out to Tyreese for keeping the Chocolate Brothers on the
right on. Yeah, no doubt. Oh, it's a good question. Didn't get super chat, but I just glanced down at my little mini monitor here and at my tablet that's on the desk, and I just saw we gotta deal with this one. He says, why don't officers hold bad fruit accountable? It is a thing where police officers, they talk a lot about, hey, this no snitching rule is bad, it's hurting your community, blah, blah, blah. Y'all got the same rule in y'all organization. Y'all don't snitch either. So you got to speak on that.
Absolutely. That Snuggles. I've been seeing Snuggles around lately. I love that.
And Snuggles be making the rounds. Yeah, she used to send me like umpteen like $10 $5 super chats a day, to the point to where I had to make her own little special greet.
Hi, I'm Snuggles.
Snuggles be making the rounds. She was like the $5 super chat champion of the world around here. But she says, seeing that you, I can't even see that. Seeing that you rock with everybody, play my music, and do you all think the community mindset is backwards on the concept of community? Before we address what Snuggles is talking about there, let's get to the question that somebody put out in the chat about the whole cops don't hold bad cops accountable.
Put it up.
They got the I can't even, well, okay, I had to go all the way down to the bottom and find it. But yeah, but basically cops, y'all got a no snitch rule in y'all organization as well. Y'all just like the gangbangers.
Nah.
Y'all just like the black community. Y'all got the no snitch rule too.
We are one of the largest gangs. That's a fact.
You said it.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. Now, you know, there's nothing wrong with being a gang. And even by law, if I'm not mistaken, a gang, what makes a gang criminal? When you're a gang in a group and you commit a crime. You know, you have AKAs, you have Omegas, you got what's the other little group? Not to call them little, I apologize for those who are in fraternities and sororities, but there's gangs all over the place. Now, if you had what gets these sororities and fraternities in trouble? When they start hazing people, that's a crime.
Mhm.
So everybody can get it, right? As a gang, you do a group activity, and you all get charged with that crime. As officers, it is a gang. It's a gang, but we do great things, right? We're a gang of civil servants. Unfortunately,
right now you ain't doing good. You're sounding like Nino Brown passing out turkeys on Thanksgiving right now. Like, come on, man.
hey,
Trying to help you. I'm trying to help you here.
hey, no, I mean the reality is this, in any large group of organization, and even throughout our government, if you got bad agents, you got bad actors in the group. What are you gonna do about that? You got bad people in all professions.
But
what he said was,
the question is, do you feel that the good cops put enough effort to police the bad ones, to get out their bad elements? Okay, give us some examples of that, because I'm gonna botch the term, but I mean, isn't like a blue code, a blue wall of silence or something like that?
Depends on your department. Depends on your department. Here's and I think it's no one's fault for having their perception of things, right? When you're on the outside looking in, things always look funny. But I worked for departments that called out the BS. You had some people, people don't understand how corruption works within a police department. That's the problem. The problem is people have no idea how it works, how it's able to fester, right? Someone asked me the same question not too long ago, and I told them I've never witnessed an officer doing anything illegal. They found it hard to believe. I've called officers out for abusing power, right, or being excessive. But when you have good officers, we do address bad officers all the time when we see it. If something happens, we don't have a problem doing it. Just because the public doesn't hear about it doesn't mean it's not happening, right? So we have to make sure we make that distinction. There are a lot of political red tape that goes in removing bad officers, and so they're protected. Like, they have bad officers. Officers in general have rights in their department. There's policies that the department has to follow. There's a due process, if you will. So when an officer makes a mistake or a perceived mistake, it has to go through a process. Now, some people don't like the process. They feel like the process isn't as fast-tracked as it is in other places, right? There's a lot of investigating. You get opportunities. You have different mistakes, maybe different levels of mistakes. So there is a structure to how you can weed out officers. There are officers that aren't great at their job, and because they didn't break any or violate any policy per se, the department can't just up and fire them. I've seen it and witnessed that all the time. You have officers that what I call RIP officers that are retired in place, meaning that they have no purpose. They come every day, collect the check, and they don't contribute at all. You cannot get rid of those officers. They're very difficult. You can't fire them because they have rights too. They have rights to work. You have people who sign up, go to work every single day.
But what do they do when they come to work?
Nothing.
They just pull up a chair and sit down.
They just kind of coast around, avoid calls, avoid dangerous calls.
Oh, right? They're out. Okay, so they're out in a squad car, just riding around doing nothing.
Pretty much. Writing tickets. A lot of times you'll see those guys who are very ticket happy. You'll see those guys that you have like a robbery in progress, a murder in progress, bank robbery in progress, and they're hiding behind buildings, trying to avoid, have violent. Hey, domestic situation, person stabbed, bleeding out, and you find out that they're actually 5 minutes away from the incident location, and they pretend that they're 30 minutes away, and yeah. And so these are
right there. You're speaking to an extreme flaw right there in the heart of the system.
Correct.
So it's one thing to say good cops need to call out bad cops, but what you just explained right there is that in some cases with some precincts and some districts or however you phrase it, no, just the system itself is bad. It's not about good cops calling out bad cops. It's the whole damn structure is bad. If that's the case, if they can't fire somebody who's willfully not doing their job, willfully not responding to dangerous situations, he just riding around, he just sitting, just eating donuts, sitting back with his seat laid back. Like,
Right.
all right, let me wipe these donuts off my face and go write about 10, 12 tickets, and then go back to sleep. Like, no, they can't fire him. Then the system is all bad. Like,
They can't fire him as easy, right? Because here's the problem with police departments: you have to build a case against an officer, and this is departments that don't have unions. We're talking about departments that don't have unions. Departments with unions are a lot different, and unions are there to protect their union workers. And bad or good, you're protected. It's a double-edged sword. This is what people are complaining about, right? Like, unions don't give space to filter out bad officers. So, and the reason why those unions exist is because there are departments that actually treat their officers bad too, right? We have to look at it from both angles. Or unions wouldn't be a purpose for unions. So unions have their purpose; they're there for a reason. We just need to make adjustments to make sure that we're not facilitating and encouraging bad behavior within departments, right? So it's adjustments, and no system is perfect. And I think that's the issue. No system is perfect. And the idea that you have officers that work, I've seen it. I've seen officers that weren't good at their job, where departments have to make a case against them to justify firing them. In Georgia, this is a right to work state, right? So people can fire you as long as it's not violating, or as long as the reasons aren't discriminatory in nature, right?
is there any situation where a cop could be fast track fired? Like,
yeah, depending on policy. So a department's policy is where because that's what you're signing, right? When we sign up to work in a department, you have to sign off agreeing on all the policy. That, like, basically saying that, hey, if you do this egregious act, you're gone. There's no 1, 2, 3 step count, right? You're gone. We had a policy at my department: if you get more than 2 tardies, right? If you're late 3 times, you get suspended. If you're late again, like 4 more times, you're up for termination. So they have these policies. So the question will be like, the question to ask is, every police department is different. We have 18,000 police departments in this country. Every department runs itself differently. And so when we see an issue with the police department, an issue with the police officer, we have to then go examine that department, examine that officer, because what is okay in one department is not okay at another department. People who have issues with the police have to start examining that department, that officer individually per issue. That is the key. And then examining the leadership. So, and this is why I feel like it's so important for my channel, because I get to bring insight, because a lot of people just don't know. So a lot of times we have these, as he brought it up, as, hey, are officers holding other officers accountable? Absolutely, we are. But then we're limited to what we can do, because, again, we are not in a position to fire police officers. You have officers that would write emails and say, or the supervisor will get a hold of something, and it is their job to do their part. So the question is, officers do report, stupidity and bad behavior, unless that officer is engaged with that bad officer. And oftentimes when you have one bad officer, what people don't realize, as officers, we're individual agents, right? In a police department. A lot of us ride around solo. So all my bad deeds, if I'm a bad officer, I'm doing those things within myself. No one else can see it but me and the person I'm interacting with. So it's not a team criminal effort unless it is a group of bad officers that are operating together. So that's why when people are like, oh, how come bad officers aren't being held accountable? A lot of times when one bad officer is doing bad, other officers might not even know about it, and that's just the reality. So it's almost like saying you have a best friend, Bernard, and you guys are best friends, you've been best friends for 10 years, but you're only with him maybe 2 hours a week. And so you don't see all the things that he does, and the rest of his 24 hours, you don't know. So it's the same thing with police. We're out doing our individual thing, and we don't always see what other officers are doing. We end up later hearing about it, like, oh, he did what? She did what? And then next, it makes the news. And people are like, how come officers aren't holding other officers accountable? It doesn't work like that. So that's just bringing some insight to it.
Okay, Sir Tyson in the building. He says, while it's on my mind, along with that about domestic disputes, what about false complaints and assessing these? Go ahead and get on that one.
That's a good question. Evidence, man. And it's one of the main reasons why I even wanted to come and talk about this topic on here as well. Because a lot of men we don't have an advocate, right, group that speaks on a lot of these topics and then actually has some behind the scenes intel on what goes on. You do. And I like to preface this. I always have to say this to the ladies that listen, that we're not dismissing, things that you do say and things that are true. But when we're talking about men issues, we just ask that you respectfully listen and give us an opportunity to express the things that we experience and understand this is coming from real life events, right? I always have to give that disclaimer because sometimes women don't want to hear that side. The reality is this is real. Women lie on men. Women lie on men to get the outcomes that they want, and they'll lie to police, they'll lie to courts. And so this happens more than you think. And when I'm talking to men in these situations with domestics, where do men go wrong? We lose our temper. We allow a woman to trigger us, manipulate us through emotions, because women know their words have power. Women know you well. They know the things that upset you. They may have done something that upsets you. And because of that, they use that to their advantage. A lot of men lose their cool. They say something that they don't mean. They do or commit an act in the presence of a woman that can cause them to get in trouble. And here's one of the things that this got brought up when I was talking about the Rajay Black situation. You had a lot of women understood what I was saying, and a few, of course, as you know, they didn't, and that's okay, but we need to talk about it. Here's how men get themselves in trouble. Before I say that, let's talk about the false complaints. Assessing those, we need evidence. I move on evidence, and that a lot of that time is, I tell men, record. You saw the baby do it. That was genius. In that situation when he was dealing with his child's mother, whatever, I can't remember her name is, but he recorded. The baby's not stupid now, right? So he recorded that entire interaction.
To me, it looked stupid going live on the gram. It looks stupid when you do it for the gram. I always say record, don't go live on the gram. But I agree with that. But somebody came in my chat room and made a solid argument, not in my chat room, in my comment section, and made a solid argument where I was like, no, he was like, well, what did he say? He said, going live, that gives you got 1,000 witnesses now, just in case. So that did make me step back on my position for a little bit. But overall, I hate when people record everything. I hate when people go live, because then it's like, are you doing this for evidence, or are you just doing it for the gram for clout? People be going live whooping their kids and just doing just stupid stuff, going live on the gram whooping your kids. I hate this do it for the gram culture, but yes, get the recording, document it, keep your documentation. There's all kind of stuff I got recorded that never saw the light of day. Some of it made it to the courtroom. Some of it I didn't need in the courtroom.
There you go.
After everything was over, the trial, the whole situation done, I didn't even want the stuff on my I deleted the stuff. It's done because the verdict is in. But I had my documentation ready to go.
Absolutely.
I'm so glad I didn't do it for the gram, and then now my whole city and everybody in my business. That part is just stupid to me.
It is.
But anyway, go ahead.
It is. You're 100% right. And with the baby situation, you gotta say that man's worth $1 million, $1 million plus. He can't afford. And though his behavior could be reckless at times, at least he's intelligent enough to understand how the court system will show favor to a woman over him. And you can't deny what you see on that camera. And so he was absolutely right. And I agree, you got live witnesses, because say she got a hold of that phone and destroyed it. Now that evidence is gone. Well, that stuff's live, right? So I tell men all the time, don't argue with women. We have to, especially us as Black men, some of us are too emotional and too sensitive. And we allow ourselves to be triggered so easily by women, and a lot of times to our own detriment. So evidence is important, and saving text messages. A lot of men have been saved through just text messages alone. And and video recording, sound recording. If you have an audio recorder, those things work wonders, you guys. And again, this is about your safety. This is about your freedom a lot of times. And unfortunately, you don't know how talented of an investigator the officer is that you're getting. And so you're gambling. If an officer shows up and they're just kind of oblivious, you might get that officer that we talked about. There's one in every police department that doesn't really care about their job. They're just swinging around from branch to branch trying to figure it out. You might get that officer. And so you got to be careful, because that police report is a legal document. So if they're documenting something and it shows you in less favor, or it doesn't give a balanced view of what's actually taking place, when you go to court in front of the judge or for a custody trial, you're done. You're done. And so be mindful of that. I have a thing that I did that I took very seriously. When women would make false reports, I would go back and arrest them. I would take charges against them for making false statements. And I remember talking to a couple people, and they're like, "Oh, you shouldn't do that. You know, women are under this kind of pressure."
Wait, hold on. Wait, let's talk about that, because that's something that a lot of people don't know.
Yes.
The degree in which you can arrest somebody for making false statements. It was my perception that they could just tell a lie, and then they get proven to be lying. Then that's just okay. You can't arrest somebody for a lie. But explain. I'm sure there's some nuance there, because women lie all the time.
Women lie all the time, yeah. But when
they don't go to jail, they don't go to jail for lying all the time. So,
no.
Yeah, explain the nuance of how and when they can go to jail for basically telling a lie or falsifying something, or if it's proven to not be true.
You can look at it as officers. Remember, we're a lie. So a lie is one thing, and when it's a documented lie, we're talking a legal document. So I am making a legal documentation of what you're telling me. And or I can have a lot of times with domestics, I make them write out their statement, because that's evidence, so that people, for court and things like that. So I'll let them write it down. And so if a woman or a man is saying that I am putting on record that she did this to me, he did this to me, I'm putting this on record. I am over here as a representative of the state. I have the ability to charge you with probable cause for any type of crime. So I'm looking and investigating, looking for elements of a crime that if it occurred, I'm going to charge you with it. You are signing this legal documentation under me, with me, in my presence. You're signing it. I am then going to take that, and through my investigation, go and speak with the judge. And if there is probable cause there's reason to believe that a crime was committed, then I have to, by law, have to take out charges, especially on a domestic. So if a woman is making false allegations on that statement, and then I'm acting on it on her behalf, later to find out, say the gentleman had a video recording. There's been situations like this where he may have had some guys who had cameras inside their home, cameras outside their home, where the altercation she claimed occurred. And you see the woman actually assaulting him first, and then maybe he slapped her afterwards. But you see she was the primary aggressor. But then she lied and said, no, he approached me and got in my face, and I got scared and I slapped him. And the video
in that situation, is she being arrested for being caught on camera punching him, or is she being arrested for lying about what happened?
No, she's being arrested for slapping him. But she stated that he had approached her and pushed her, put his hands on her. But the camera showed a different story. The camera showed her, in which what he said, but there's no way to prove it, right? There's no way to prove it. And in that case, I didn't arrest anybody because there was no evidence to support either side. And then he came back and said, no, I have proof. I have proof. And I went back with her statement and everything, and I arrested her and also charged her for providing a false statement because she lied about the entire situation. And so, yes, they can be arrested for false statement. That is a charge. You often see investigators do it because they're constantly interviewing people. So when you're interviewing people, you're swearing to your statement. You're like, this is my statement. I'm sticking to it. I swear this is true. And then you're signing it. Yeah, I can definitely, but it's discretion is what they like to call it. Officer has that discretion to do that. But no, I always make it a point to do it. And oftentimes with domestics, you see men get assaulted or men get the bad end of the stick. And they're like, nah, I don't want to press charges on her or whatever. You know, it ain't no big deal. I always encourage men not to do that. I said, no, you need to press charges, because if it was the other way around, she would not feel the same way. Maybe tomorrow she'd change her mind, but it's too late. You're already locked up. So I always encourage I encourage people not to engage in any type of physical confrontation, but a lot of times you see men not wanting to press charges on women in situations. So
Right. All right, let's get back to the super chats. The Logic Sphere says Joe Fitzgerald became, hold on, let me blow that up so I can see it. Joe Fitzgerald became the police of Fort Worth, Texas, once he said the department was ran like the 1950s. They put all the unions and associations on him. Fixing the police issues from the inside is not easy, as people say.
very true. Very true. It's like the head of a snake. You can have a department that has a phenomenal leadership, but eventually that leadership cycles out, right? So I could be. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. You was about to say, so you can go ahead and finish.
Yeah, I could say, for example, I could become a police chief right now for a police department, and I could run it to the best of my ability. And it's an amazing department. I have everybody in line from top to bottom. Everyone's doing well. The person below me, the vice chief, as you can call him, right? The deputy chief. Now, I retire, the deputy chief takes over. He's like, all right, hell no, we're doing something different, right? And change the entire energy and dynamic of the department and put the department in a different direction. Think of it like a president. Think of it like the chief of a police department is equivalent to like the president of the United States. How easy you can change the direction of a country based on the leadership. So when I urge people to look at that, when we say these police departments, no, it's the leadership. The system itself is not the problem. It's the people who are operating it. So as long as we have proper people in it operating with integrity, we won't have the issues that we have.
Well, you going back to what you said earlier, you talked about how the system is a part of the problem. Well, one aspect of the problem, because like you were talking about how it's bad cops that it's just hard to fire them because of the way it's structured. It got to be certain specific things that you could fire them. Police officer union, like keep in mind, I've worked union jobs. I've seen some horrible employees.
You're protected, right?
Yeah, that make mistake after mistake, and it's so many. It's such a long process of how they can get fired to the point to where they could hover around for years doing a horrible job. But with police officers, if they not responding to dangerous calls and or hurting people they damn self, but the structure is set up to where it's hard to fire them, then that part is the system. Then
no
issue of the people that's running it too.
I disagree because
go ahead.
The policy, again, the policy of the rules that are set in part by the leader. So if the leader is looking at the policy and they're getting complaints that people are saying, I don't like these policies.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me the police chief or whoever the leader is, whatever title he got, you telling me he could just change the policies, the rules of when somebody can get fired, when they can't get fired? Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not the system.
So when we see like a 2-year-long investigation to a cop that clearly did something wrong on camera,
correct,
it's because the head of the department put some rule in place that he's honoring that rule that he put in place.
Yes.
Okay.
Has to honor it. So perfect example of that is the Rayshard Brooks case where the officer shot Rayshard Brooks. I don't know if you're familiar with all that chaos that happened in Atlanta. I'm in Georgia. I'm in Atlanta. And you had multiple officers who got fired without any due process.
Mm-hmm.
You had the mayor who instigated the removal of these officers against the decision of the police chief. The chief said, hey, listen, we can't just fire officers because you are upset with this or you're getting this political pressure or the pressure from the community. We just can't just fire them. We have a process. The mayor was like, I don't care about the process. I want them gone. Just violated the department's policy, right? She overstepped. That's why the chief resigned. The chief said, listen, I can't be a part of that. I'm assuming that's why the chief left. But then what did the officers do that got fired without due process? They then sued the department that you violated. You violated my rights, my due process. I'm owed this this is the contract that I signed. I signed this contract. You owe me. I'm afforded due process, and you took that away from me. You didn't give me a right to speak my piece. You didn't give me a right to say what I need to say. These are the rules. You cannot violate the rules that I signed. It's a contract. So they sued, and they're gonna win because it's a violation. And they got that. That's why the Rayshard Brooks situation. That officer, I can't remember his name, the white officer who shot Rayshard Brooks. He got his job back, and a lot of people don't know why and understand why. But he got his job back. He was never supposed to be fired. He was never. He didn't violate any policy. You can't fire him because people were mad about what happened. It doesn't work like that.
And Rayshard Brooks, that was a situation where, if I remember it right, the guy was wrestling with two police officers. He took the taser from one of them. He shot it, and then he ran and then got shot, or something like that. Correct. If I understand it right. So
correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
That was shoot.
Yeah. All right. Freeman's Journal in the building says defunding. Hold on, wait, no. Okay. How has defunding the police affected proactive policing? What is your take on the increase in homicides and low clearance rates?
That's a good question. Defunding the police has impacted proactive policing a lot. I have friends calling and telling me all the time that it has pretty much, after like the riots and everything, it has emboldened criminals. You know, who's losing in these situations? It's the people. It's the law-abiding citizens that are impacted the most. It's not
that part is real talk. I mean, I want you to get back to it, but a lot of people don't understand that when they're complaining about a lot of this stuff, who is calling the police on the people who y'all are trying to protect from the police?
Correct.
It's the people. Quite often the law-abiding citizens who are black, who are calling the police on black people, who are causing them harm. And now y'all are trying to protect the people that are causing the harm from the people who are not causing the harm caught to protect them from the harm causers. That one blows me away. That one blows me away. But go ahead, you got it.
That's why we have to have these conversations. This is why my channel is so important, you guys. I can't stress it enough. We don't have any. I haven't seen any genuine black YouTubers that are police officers that are talking about these real issues. I haven't seen them. And
shout out to Officer Faulkner. Just to shout him out. I
gotta check him out.
I'll make sure you get his link.
All right. The issue is, yes, you can't say defund the police. Now, can we reimagine policing? Absolutely. Can we reallocate some of the resources? Absolutely. But you need an officer who knows the job, who has done the job, who isn't paid by anybody, who doesn't represent any side, but can actually give real insight. You guys, I have real reform ideas that I know will work. Why? Because I know what the issues are. I know what the issues are within our community, what we're complaining about. See, there's a misunderstanding as to what the problem is. And, we try to focus so much on race. Everyone is trying to filter things through race, all the racism, this, racism, that. That's not even the majority of the problems that's causing us issues. And so as we get distracted so easily because of color, we're missing out on the majority of the issues that can actually have a major impact. So defund the police is a problem. We actually need to refund the police, to be honest. And he said something else about run his back real quick. Homicides are coming up for a couple of different reasons. And the low clearance rates are coming up because we don't have enough investigators. A lot of departments are understaffed with investigators. I've been working with a multitude of agencies for a lot of different things. I had a case recently in Atlanta where I was working a fraud case, and my fraud case unraveled a homicide case. And I reached out to a homicide detective, and they're like, give me a second, because I got 3 that just happened last night. we get a lot of deaths in Atlanta. I would say almost every weekend we get a Black person shot. You know, we are causing a lot of harm to ourselves and our own communities. And the detectives are working hard, you guys. Part of my reform initiative and we need more investigators than we need police officers, because the issue with investigators is they're doing the bulk of the work. But the idea is that when police officers show up, the crimes are already done majority of the time. We need more investigators to help solve the problem. The investigators are understaffed. They're understaffed, and there's a backlog of cases. The clearing rates are pretty good. The problem is we have some of our homicide suspects are the ones also committing multiple homicides. So a lot of times when one is clear, we're able to clear multiples. So there is a correlation, but it's not all because of defund the police. The issue with defund the police is that you have a lot of officers, because of the backlash that they're getting from the community. A lot of officers are leaving the profession because they're tired of the resentment that they're receiving. It's a good word to say. I would say that they're pointing their anger in the wrong direction. And you have sometimes in some of these cities, you have political figures who are playing games, who are playing political games. And they're using racism and they're using the police to pretty much use us as pawns in order to get their political agenda across. Unfortunately, some of us can see it and some of us cannot. And that's the problem.
All right. Shout out to Freedman's Journal. Appreciate that.
Good question.
Black Man Unfiltered says, what does he say? Let me make that bigger so I can see it. He says, if I'm committing corruption, I'm arrested. An officer does it, he's just called out. He should be subject to the same accountability. Come on now. I think you already addressed that, but you can go ahead and respond directly.
Yeah.
To Super Chat. Appreciate you, Black Man Unfiltered. Appreciate
that question. That's the problem, right? We don't understand how corruption works in police departments. I'm gonna do a video on that. We don't understand how corruption works, so I don't blame anyone for feeling that way. Officers who are corrupt and they are caught, they're held accountable. There are times when they are not. There are times when they are able to navigate around it because they have help. So there's that point. To his point, again, we understand that there are some people who have connections in this country. That's in all professions. And one of the things I want to touch on too is the racial disparities, right? When it comes to being charged with being sentencing, the racial disparities between sentencing between Black and whites, and a Black person, white person committing the same crime and not being given the same amount of time. So there are some. I had a case. I did a video on a gentleman who sexually assaulted 4 women, a white male, and he got 10 years probation. And so there's truth with people who have money, status, celebrities, athletes, who have sometimes a certain level of access, connections that allow them to circumvent around the law to a certain degree. That is a fact, and that's not okay. That's where we have an issue with the system, where we have people in the system who afford people those opportunities that other regular normal day people don't have. That's a problem that needs to be addressed. So he's right. There are some officers, there are instances, we've seen it in the past where the officers have been able to circumvent, and that's not okay. That needs to be addressed. So there's never okay, but the majority of corrupt officers that are caught, investigated, are held accountable. So I always have to tell people to be mindful that when you say that, you also have to address the officers that are corrupt and have been addressed. Because just as many, you show me one, I can show you 10 that have been handled accordingly and appropriately. So just because one has slipped through the cracks doesn't mean that that's a normal everyday occurrence. So we have to be real.
All right, I'm about to run through these super chats real quick, and I do want to get into the differences that you said when police in the predominantly Black area versus police in the predominantly white area. I do want to get into that, and then we're going to talk more about the policing the domestic disputes and the toxic women and the dudes that get all in that. So we got a lot to going to get into. We like
All right,
we an hour and 14 minutes in, but I make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure you hit the like button. Let's go. SKC in the building says progressives, no cash bail, good or bad. I don't even know what you're talking about there. That's the thing. No cash bail.
Yes. So no cash bail.
That means people can get bailed out of jail with no cash. Like that's what,
like a signature bond. So signature, we call it signature bonds. I think it's good. I use it as an investigative tool. I use it as a bargaining chip, I guess you would say. So for example, it's a good officer discretion tool. For example, I'll tell you how I've used it before. I had a woman who I forgot what her charge was. I think it was shoplifting. I had to arrest her. She took over like a felony amount of
why you say I had to arrest her? Like you ain't want to arrest her. You ain't want to arrest a woman. You ain't want to arrest a woman.
It's not the woman. It was a situation.
Yeah.
The situation was like this. She had 3 kids with her. She didn't really have like any childcare. She was shoplifting like food, grocery stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
And I had to arrest her, because sometimes, unfortunately, in this profession, you have to take your feelings out of it, your emotions out of it. But there's still things that we can do to help soften the blow.
Yeah, but hold on, real quick. That's one of the only times where I'll get a little soft on a criminal. If I see a man who's stealing a loaf of bread, I'm like,
correct.
Hey, he hungry. He hungry. Like that's one of the few situations where I'm like, hey, let him. Somebody around who got $2, just buy the bread for him and send him on his way. Like,
yes,
that's where I'm at with that. Once I see somebody stealing the loaf of bread. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll touch on that too. I had a black male who was in a grocery store. He was stealing. He took some pack of chicken, stuffed it down his pants.
Raw chicken.
Yeah, raw chicken.
He put raw chicken down his pants. Huh?
Raw chicken, and I think he stole a bar, like a packet of soap. And they caught him in this grocery store.
He gonna need some soap. He gonna need some soap to wash all the salmonella off his testicles. Like what the hell? Feel bad for his girl if she go to messing around.
Man, it was bad. The grocery store they kind of detained him. It was funny. I was around the corner, showed up, and he was stealing food. He said, "Listen, I got family, blah 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 blah." They wanted to prosecute. They're like, "We want to take him to jail." I said, "All right, hold on." And he was a brother. I was like, hold on. Let me talk to him. Spoke to him. I said, listen, this is what we're doing. I told the grocery store, I'll pay for his food. I'll pay for his food, and let's trespass him. I'll write him a citation. All right. I'm not going to take him to jail. I'm not going to take him to jail. This is, it's $30 worth of stolen stuff. He's trying to feed his family. I get it. I told him, I said, you know what, brother, you would have better off coming here asking for a job. You would have been better off coming here. I said, before you decide to do things like this, ask for help. Ask for help. Call us, call the police department. We're servants first. Hey, officer, I was thinking about stealing some food. Can you spare something? Right? I would do things where I would get gift cards, $10 on them, and I would hand them out to homeless people. And, I didn't have to, obviously, that's not something we're told to do. That was something I did on my own. So, I always would encourage people. You need clothes, things like that. Don't go in there and steal. Ask. Just ask, man. You'd be surprised how willing people are wanting, how much people really want to help. So we were able to straighten that situation out. Took him to the house, and he had kids in there. They had no furniture. They were struggling. And I said, listen, you can't go back to that store. They were nice enough to kind of work with me with this whole thing. I wasn't going to take that man to jail for that. But that's me as an officer. I can't speak on what another officer would have done, but that was my discretion that I used, right? And so in this situation where I had this woman who was shoplifting, what happened? She stole a felony amount of stuff, and that's mandatory. We got to take you in. So I take her into jail. I spoke to the judge, and I said, Your Honor, this is the situation. He has these kids. We can't do anything with them. We left the kids at the precinct, and my supervisor was like, listen, defects has to be called. If you can work out what you can work out before defects gets here, then we're good. If not, they're gone. I said, damn, okay. So I went the extra mile. What did I do? I asked the judge if I can give her a signature bond. A signature bond allows the defendant to sign themselves out of jail without having to post a cash bond. So you get to release yourself on your own recognizance, is basically what they call it. And so I think in a situation where you have very unique situations like that, because if not, she would have to stay in jail until she can post bond or go to a hearing, go to her bond hearing, because it was a felony. And so my thing is, those little things, being compassionate as officers within our own community, is what our people are asking that we do a little bit more of. Just take the time to be a little bit more compassionate, be a little bit more considerate, be a little bit more patient. And I think you can't teach that in an officer. That's something that you have to feel when you're a servant. And I think that's what people are asking of. And it goes a long way, because now what did I do in that moment?
Well, let me ask you this question.
Mhm.
Are there people who are not in that situation who somehow abuse the signature bonds?
Always. There's going to be situations where there's going to be room for abuse, right?
Yeah. Okay. But do you think the abuse outweighs the benefit in that type of situation? Because in the situation you're talking about, okay, yeah, I can have a heart for certain situations,
right,
with a signature bond. But do you think the abuse outweighs the have a heart moments?
No, I think it doesn't. I think what happens is, I think what we could do is say, how can we see? I'm a solution-based person. So when we have these conversations, I'm always thinking about how can we solve it? How can we reduce it? So I ask myself, what is the challenge? Well, how about this? How about we let it get approved by a supervisor, right? How about we let it get approved so that a supervisor can say, hey, you know what? You want to give this signature bond to this lady because she's cute and you're just trying to holler at her when you let her out, right? Officers have done that, right? Could you imagine? Okay, so, or I'm doing this because I know this person. I just want to give them a signature bond. So there's no rooted purpose behind it. So there's always room. Like because we have a tool that can be abused doesn't mean we take the tool away. It means that we need to adjust how the tool is used, or maybe put a safeguard on it. And so
how rare are signature bonds anyway?
They're not rare, because a lot of you have some supervising departments that don't like it. Again, it's a department thing. You have some judges that won't necessarily agree with it, might not care for it, because the judge has to give you the okay. Because essentially what you're saying is, you don't have to pay nothing to get out, to bond out. But if you a lot of times the judges, if you make a solid recommendation, judges are listening. They're listening and looking for our reasoning behind certain things. Even with charges, you say, hey, you're charging with this. It's a lesser charge. You can charge them with that. Can you tell me why? And you lay out your case to a judge. And a lot of times, the judge will honor that. I've never had a judge deny me for a signature bond. I've given brothers signature bonds a lot, and because again, I'm looking and dealing with criminals. And if you're a person that's just caught up, then I can work with you.
All right, Genuine Tucker Tony in the building. He says, salute, Brother Bernard and panel guests. Shout out to the chat room and the mods. Appreciate you, Genuine Trucker Tony. And by the way, I think the moderators are dropping your channel. When they don't even do that, put your name up on there so people can see who we see your name. But yeah, go to his channel, check them out. I think the moderators should be dropping it in there. I see it down there. I see them. They dropping it. All right. Shout out to let me see who is this, who we got in here. Big Pick 1984. He says, I'm black and was an officer for 8 years. Why you get fired? Not just playing. Because I'm black and I was an officer for 8 years. I think the main issue is that we all have bias, but there's nothing in place to see if their bias will keep them from doing their job effectively. Defunding doesn't work. Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. I'm gonna move on to the next one. Houdini Unchained the building. He said, I disagree. We should invest in our young boys and dads. Agreed there. And we got let me make that bigger. He says got real told properties back to avoid the toxic women. We gonna circle back to that one. Be patient. I do want to get into something that he said earlier in the stream. He said he spent I think a portion of his career as a cop policing black neighborhoods, another portion of his career policing white neighborhoods. What was the difference?
Difference would be the way the white community views law enforcement. It's a natural, I would say, what I've recognized: a lot of love, a lot of support, a lot of community engagement. When there's a community event and that law enforcement puts out that I've witnessed in the department I was working, you talking about a massive turnout. Very active, very engaged, wanting to know what's going on in the department. Very big on accountability too. If officers mess up, they do not play about wanting to hold officers accountable. They're very active in the local government space, right? They show up to the events. They want to walk through the police department. They want to know who the officers are. They want to know who the chief is. They're just active. They're just very, very active. You know, when we would do community events within the black community, you didn't get such a large turnout, right? You didn't get that much. We would say, hey, we want the community to be present to speak on these issues. You didn't get such a large turnout. They
thought y'all was down there trying to low key arrest people.
You know, unfortunately,
they got warrants. They ain't trying to go down there.
We've had events like that. I don't like that. We'd have events like, oh, you getting free cruises. They're doing a situation where we're giving out free raffles, and really it was people who had warrants that are rounding up. So I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. But I mean, you know, the thing is, it's just about being involved. And one of the most important things is that the community is responsible for fixing the community. We can't do it by ourselves. The police are just one component to a larger piece. We're just one component, and we can't solve all of society's issues. This is a collective work. We have a lot of other social professions that need to be held just as much accountable for a lot of the problems. Officers are ready and able to give up some of this baggage that we have to carry. That should have never been put on officers' backs in the first place, or police departments' backs in the first place. There are other social programs that need to step up, right? So when this whole thing about defund the police came about, and it was like, let some of these counselors and, you know, social programs or whatever, social services step up. Yes, step up. Please do. Please step up. Step all the way up. But a lot of them have issues too, and the way they do their jobs and things like that need to be examined. And so
I think, my question is, do you notice and or feel a difference in the types, in the amount or types of calls you get for certain situations from one community to the other? Like, break down and explain that.
From what my experience, I have to preference with this though. The community I was patrolling in was a very it was middle class and upper middle class, predominantly white community. So there's the difference too, because we have to make sure we distinguish. There are a lot of poor and low income white communities as well. I didn't work in that community, so I got to make sure I be very clear on that. And so when we talk about crime with any demographic, whether it's white, black, Hispanic, we need to look at, okay, what's the socioeconomic status of that community? I worked in a very high end, I would say middle class, upper middle class white community. What I did notice is a lot of the crime that was coming into the community were done by people who weren't of that community. You know, that was one of the biggest concerns that I think I was kind of shocked. To be completely
that was with the upper middle class or middle class white community. The people that was committing the crimes were not exactly from that community. Would you say that's the same thing? Because I remember you said you policed a middle or upper middle class black community. Was it the same thing? A lot of people that's committing the crimes wasn't from there.
Correct. Absolutely.
Would you say was there So would you say there was practically no difference between middle class blacks and middle class whites? Or
Correct. I would say correct, because I think what we're seeing is a mentality thing, right? You have people with this. You have a community of people who are working hard, minding their business, trying to just live life, pay bills, be law-abiding citizens. Again, the issue isn't the law-abiding. The issue is those who are not abiding by the law. That's the concern. And just because you are a certain economic status doesn't mean you can't be a criminal either. So let's be clear on that. And it doesn't mean that there wasn't crime in that community. The crime a lot of time was different. The domestics were high in this white community I was in. Drugs also. Sexual deviance.
The opioid.
Opioids, drug dealers. There were drug dealers. There were just different types of drug dealers in the white community, right?
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by different types of drug dealers? Let's break that down.
We had cases where here's what's funny is this is a very wealthy community, right? You might not have the street dealer dealing in that community, but you have the actual connect, right? You have the head drug dealer there, the one who never steps outside on any street corner, right? He lives in this community. He does not work in that community. Does that make sense? Here we go. You have
I got you.
All right. So the boss of the drug organization lives in the white community. But then his workers work in the black community, right? Or the workers work in the low income.
Hold on. Are you saying that this is a white dude who's
white and black?
Okay, so it's some black dudes living in the white community that they like they the connection, they the plug, they got the
plug. Yes,
and
sir.
then they handing out to all the little foot soldiers that go and sell it to the black community.
Any community, any community where that type of element, right, thrive.
That particular drug is
correct. So what you would see is in our high end communities, here's the problem with patrolling in areas like that, wealthy areas. The crime is hidden to the eye, right? You have to be a different type of officer to work in these areas because the crime exists. It's just hidden,
right?
It's discreet. Right. So when you go up in status in communities, the criminals are a lot more professional. The criminals are professional, right? They're wearing suits and ties. They're not in saggy jeans and ripped up clothes. They are professionals. They have grow houses in their basement. Do you feel me? You see what I'm saying? They have actual, they run prostitution stings out of their homes. They have, we have plenty of a lot of prostitution problems in these more wealthier communities. So many. A lot of sex trafficking is big there. You have worked one not too long ago before I retired, where there was an Asian woman who was operating this entire operation, and she's Asian, right? And her John was a white man, and she had a book full of her clients, and I'm sitting here just like I'm looking around like this is a beautiful place I'm in. Who would have ever known this was going on in here? Because see, the crimes they commit are different, and so they're not something you can catch with the naked eye. And so you have to have a different eye for policing in those type of communities and understand what you're seeing when you see it. You pull that person over in a Porsche, right? You pull that person over in a Hummer, in a Bentley, and yes, they are criminals too. You just don't understand what type of crime they're committing because it's not visible to the naked eye. We had a case with a guy who was pulled over for tint, his window tint, ended up finding pounds of meth in his car. Then come to find out after investigating that he was a big fraud and scam criminal as well. So and he's hiding in plain sight. Right?
But y'all do that though. Y'all pull people over for tint or little stuff like that because that little stuff in the mind of the cop that make y'all say, let's let's use this small thing as reason to pull them over. Then let's put
Correct.
on the flashlight. Let's investigate and see what let's go fishing now.
Let's go fishing. Yeah.
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 Yeah. See that y'all go fishing over a broken tail light.
Hey.
And then try to find, I ain't feeling that. I ain't feeling that.
Yeah. The problem though, what people don't like, and I can be honest about it, is when you don't have something and you try to force something, right? And
but
sometimes
that's kind of what you're doing when you see the broken tail light. Then you go fishing just because the broken tail light gave you opportunity to pull them over. But then again, okay,
you fish, but you don't harass. There's a difference.
Okay,
right now there's people that I've stopped, and I'm like, oh, I know something wasn't right, but I don't have nothing. Right? I can push it, but I never wanted to be that cop. So I just be honest. I stop a guy. I'm like, oh, I could tell this dude, but I have nothing. And it's okay. It's okay if you don't have nothing, but you have some officers, the gentleman said something about being biased. The other officer that said he was an officer for 8 years, he's right. Everybody has bias. The bias is not the problem. The issue is what you do with that bias, how you act on that bias. That's the problem.
All right. Shout out to where am I at? Trying to find where I left off on the super chats. Okay. I bet wait, hold on. I don't know if that was the most recent one. Okay, hold on. Here we go. Indigenous TV in the building. He says, I bet this brother hate cop movies. Do females want you to pretend, arrest them, and role play?
Man, all the time. The time they do. Yeah.
Like while you out on duty, they want you.
Yeah, that too. We call them badge bunnies. That's the nickname we give them. The women who are just really have this insatiable appetite for men in uniform. Yeah, women have done some. Man.
I'm not talking. I understand the woman that you actually dealing with. That she like, oh, he a cop. Oh yeah, you coming over in uniform and we doing some things. Right. But I'm talking about just randomly on duty. You pulled the chick over and then she tried to make it just turn into a whole Brazers scene. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they do it on job working. I mean, what do you say? I hate cop movies. I love cop movies. Actually, I love them because I like to pull out.
Don't speed past that. Hold on. You said, but hold on. You got the little camera though, so you can't really do nothing. You put the camera in your back pocket or what?
Nah, never that. Back in the day, before there were cameras, you had officers that would get in trouble for that. Because here's the thing, guys. And it's something we're going to talk about too, about dick discipline. Sexual discipline. From a professional standpoint, from a personal standpoint, as men, we have to be able to be disciplined enough to say no, disciplined enough to know there's a time and a place, right? To encourage a woman's advances. And I never acted on them in the moment. It'd be more like, hey, here's my number, follow up me after I get off of work kind of thing. But it was never a thing where I would try to do something while on work. That was a no-no. Because see, officers have gotten caught and got in trouble. Why though? Because in that moment, say you might have a woman. I've had cases with guys who were like, okay, well, I'm gonna take advantage of this, right? In the moment. And then that woman maybe a week later changes her mind, right? Or may have had a boyfriend, or may have used that, or say, hey, I got a homegirl that just got arrested. Can you do something for me? He's like, nah, I can't do nothing for her. And then she's like, oh, okay, well, bet. And next you know, he's getting pulled in the principal's office and losing his job. Because now she used that as leverage,
or not losing his job based off what you said earlier, because the system is in place where they got to get 10 strikes against their record in order to lose.
But let me correct that though. Every violation that's in policy has different consequences. Mm-hmm. So there are some violations that are immediate termination. Having sex on duty, right? A male having sex on duty, that's an immediate termination for a lot of departments.
Whoa. Why did you say a male having sex on duty?
Or female.
Okay, I'll just make it.
I only say that because we're talking about men. I said that because we're talking about men.
All right.
Yeah, no. So let me clarify. Any officer violating there's certain policies are terminated immediately. Men and women included. But specifically, since we're talking about men, but yeah, it goes both ways, absolutely. And even if this has happened with employees, officers doing this on duty as well. This has happened. There's been a situation I remember where I had a coworker who was on duty going to another coworker's house while she was off duty, and the department found out about it and terminated both officers.
Okay.
And not because they had sex. I think it was more so because they were doing it on the clock, right? So
yeah.
So go figure.
They probably was smashing. But anyway, Jackie's Retro in the building. He says, "Why does it seem like more and more judges are letting people out on violent crimes than they go and commit murder? Is that?"
That's a thing.
Is that a thing? Is that a thing that's happening? That they're getting let out on the violent crime. They let the violent person free, and then he goes and does some violent stuff. Wait, hold your thought real quick. On a, he's dropped a Snuggle. Stop telling me to drop the link. People go up and give him a piece of their mind. Bad boy, what you going to do? Okay, yeah, blah 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 blah. All right. Indigenous TV says, Bernard, you done took my wrench, clutches squirrels. I forgot what I took your wrench for. You lucky my memory bad. I gave it back, but behave yourself. I mean, I already mentioned earlier, I got a lot of people in my chat room that I don't know, they got wrenches, but all they do is just sit there with the wrench and just don't just disagree, but they just literally just sit back and just hate on the whole channel. It's like I think it's a weird thing that's going on here. Nothing wrong with a disagreement. Nothing wrong with disagreement, but I can't even remember why I took your wrench, so I gave it back. But behave yourself going forward. No promises in the future. No promises in the future.
That is funny.
All right. I can't even remember why I took it. But all right. You must have said something, and I was like, man, get the hell out of here.
Get my wrench back.
Yeah, I don't know what you said. But yeah, some people just been wrench sitting. I don't know. They made a donation 6 months ago, like a $50 donation. I gave them a wrench, and now the motherfucker and now they just sit back and hate on the channel with the wrench.
That is funny. That is funny.
I'm gonna do some wrench Persian in a little bit.
Wrench Persian.
Yeah.
I need some wrenches on my channel, you guys. I'm live streaming next week.
I got too many wrenches, man. The wrench squad be down there clowning.
Yeah,
making timeout worthy comments with a wrench. It's like, what the hell? You ain't on the team no more. You just you hurting the channel.
Wrench squad.
You getting people to leave.
That is funny.
You turning the
turn coats.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyway,
blue wrenches.
Anyway, so where was we at? I forgot what we was talking about.
We were at one previous. I think.
Ty, hold on, wait, Ty, wait, hold on, wait, Ty City, your wrench been on life support. Your wrench been on life support for like the last year. Like I don't know why you.
That is funny.
I don't know. Your wrench is being kept alive by machines. Your wrench a vegetable right now. It just.
Give me 1 second, Bernard. Give me 1 second.
All right, go ahead, do your thing. All right, make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure y'all hit that like button. We got 161 on the likes. That ain't half bad. We got Nathan Daley in the building, police officer, talking to us about a lot of the odds and the ends of it all. So yeah, when he come back, we about to get into. I want to ask some more questions. I'm gonna drop the link. I am gonna drop the link pretty soon, probably right at the 2-hour mark. I'm gonna drop the link, but eventually, I want to break down some of the differences in Yeah, you about to get unplugged. Don't worry, you about to get unplugged. But no, that was some good stuff in breaking down some of the differences in policing white folks versus policing black folks. That was definitely definitely a good one. Let's talk about those domestic disputes.
Yes.
And when you get into that, now, are there situations, and I actually knew a situation like this where somebody I knew, like they kept, the police just stayed at their house. Dude just wouldn't. And the chick was causing it. The chick was causing it. The dude kept getting in more and more trouble from it. Now, he probably wasn't completely innocent, but from the stuff that I knew, that I saw, chick was causing it. Dude just stayed there. Like so, I guess what I'm asking, do you notice like repeated situations?
Yep.
I keep going back to the same house for the same reason.
Yep.
And this dude just won't get away from the same chick.
Yep.
Who they keep running to the same problems with, man. Speak on that one.
Yeah, that happens often. That happens with a lot of toxic relationships. Where you might have a week
And
with
speak
a man.
on and be long-winded on that one. I got to step away for 1 minute real
Yes,
quick.
sir,
So go ahead and be long-winded.
All right. So yeah, you guys, I think one of the biggest things is the toxic relationships. And we know toxic relationships go both ways. But specifically, we're here to talk about men, right? So let's look at what ends up happening. You have guys who are in relationships for whatever reason. They're with a woman that they feel like emotionally they can't separate themselves from. And what tends to happen is their relationship is very abusive. A lot of times it starts off always verbal, right? It's always like a verbal thing. There's resentment there, but they just can't escape. One of the biggest things with a lot of men why they can't remove themselves from situation, a lot of times it's because of their desire to want to stay in it because of maybe sexual reasons, right? That bond, they don't want that person to be with anybody else. But for whatever the reasons are, when you start getting a situation, the police start getting called out to your home, and because of the loud fighting, you have neighbors who are calling, they see you guys fighting, you see a lot of verbal exchanges. I would come to homes and I would encourage the men, and when I'm talking to them, especially when I can tell that they're kind of the victim, when they're the victim in that particular time, when I'm speaking to them, I always give them a reality check and say, listen, you don't want to be in a situation where a person takes you out of your character. Why do I say that? Because as men, unfortunately, there are times where the court systems are going to look at us as being the ones that are going to be held to the highest standards. As men, we're always kind of held at the highest standard. It's not a shock to anybody that there are times where the courts favor women in a lot of circumstances, even sometimes in domestics. It's not uncommon that men recognize that officers will kind of favor women to a degree. And that does happen. And it happens a little all too often. And men recognize it. We recognize it. And because that does happen, I always tell men, don't put yourself in a situation where a person will get you out of character, put you in a situation where your freedom could be in jeopardy because of the words of a woman. And this is I'm talking to men who aren't the cause, men who aren't the problem in this particular situation. We have to be mindful that we are held to a higher standard as men in this country. It just is what it is. It's just a burden of being a man. And because of that standard that we're held to, whether right, fair, or whatever, the reality is that we have to make sure we are doing what's best for ourselves, which is if we're in a toxic relationship, we have to remove ourselves out of it. Because all it takes is one bad decision to actually take our life and our freedom in a whole different direction. You could put a woman in fear for her safety, in fear for her life with your words. And an officer will show up and take you to jail behind it. There's a charge that we have here in Georgia called terroristic threats. If you threaten a woman that you're going to harm her, and that woman believes it's believable and that it could be carried out, you can be arrested for that. It's a felony. You can be arrested for simple assault. You never have to touch a woman. You can be arrested. This is why it's so important that we have control over our emotions. You have some men that are extremely emotional. I call them, I won't tell you what I call them, but very sensitive. Very sensitive. So what happens? I'm gonna give you a situation where how you can be arrested for never laying your hands on a woman. I had a situation one time where a woman called the police, said her boyfriend was out of control. They lived together, they had kids together. He was out of control. I show up. I said, okay, what happened? She's the caller. He's angry. When I got there, he was cool. She said, I think he's going to try to hurt me. Okay, why do you say that? What is it? I said, did he say it? Did he threaten you? She said, no. He's loud. He's kicking stuff over. He took his cell phone, and he threw it, and it penetrated the drywall out of anger because I can't even remember what they were fighting about, but they've been going through it for a week or so, right?
He didn't throw it at her. He just threw
it at her.
Because some dudes who be punching walls and doing
punching walls.
Yeah, and
it's equivalent to punching the wall. So he never threw it at her. He never threatened her, but he was angry, and I know why they're angry, right? I understand the issue that they were having. He was so pissed. He did it in her presence, though. And in that moment, she said she was scared for her life. She was scared for her safety. I took him to jail, you guys. I arrested him. I had enough evidence to support that her reason for fear was there. Why did I take him to jail? The fear for an officer is that if we leave and remove ourselves from the situation, what guarantee do we have that you as a man, you as a woman are going to act accordingly without harming each other? Someone has to be removed because you've already shown that you have no control over your emotions, right? And the moment was the dry wall. Okay, the next moment it's her, right? So we don't know. We are operating with this idea that in the worst case scenario, could you have been put in a situation where you would bring harm to her? So what I'm saying is he went to jail because he lost control over himself. He lost control over his emotions. And he showed in that moment that he could be reckless. He destroyed his own property. It wasn't hers. It wasn't even directed in her direction, but it showed that he had no control. Yes, sir.
All right. Women are notorious for destroying property. I tend to believe that they don't get taken to jail for damaging property in their own house because they were mad. So you're going to take her to jail for what she could potentially do to somebody like, let's say the children or anybody in that house. I said the children because they're known for, abusing children. But I tend to believe that women aren't taken to jail for that. I mean, yes, if you go, let's just say she take a baseball bat and just vandalize, bust the windows, slash the tires, and all the stuff. You did all of that, and she was proven guilty of doing it. Okay, she'll get took to jail. But for a situation like that, like she got mad and she threw a vase across the room, even if she didn't throw it at him, but the mere fact that she threw that object, will she get taken to jail for that?
It depends, because here's the thing. What do I say earlier about men? We a lot of times don't want to press any charges, right? Men see what here's the caveat to that law, right? Did you put me in fear, right? In fear. That's the whole key. Did you put me in fear? This is simple assault. I don't necessarily have to touch you. Did you put me in reasonable fear to believe that I can receive any type of harm? This is about a mentality. This is about perception. The guy is like, listen, I was just angry at her. She got on my nerves. I wasn't even messing with her. I came here and I punched the wall. It's like, so you can't even punch your own wall. Could you imagine? As a man, you go to jail for destroying your own wall in your home, but because it was in her presence and you made her scared, you can be taken to jail for that. Men need to understand that. Now, the woman does the same thing. The woman takes a vase in front of the man and she's like, I hate you. And she breaks the vase. Nowhere near him. I show up and I talk to the woman. She's mad. She's angry. She breaks her own property. I go and talk to the man. How'd that make you feel, sir? He's like, man, it's her shit. I don't care. I said, did you feel like she's gonna harm you? He's like, nah. Okay. I don't have the element for that crime. Right. So what do I tell her though? I said, ma'am, you're out of line. You have your emotions are out of control. What you did is unacceptable. And if he had an issue with that, I'd be taking you to jail. This is what I'm suggesting, and it's not up for debate. You need to remove yourself from this home before I leave. And you need to find somewhere where you can stay for a few days. This is a directive that I'm giving her. You cannot stay here.
Does she have to follow that directive or get arrested?
Well, she has to follow it. Yes, she has to follow it. She has to follow it.
If she say no, this is my house, I ain't leaving, then what?
No, she doesn't. She has that right unless I have an actual charge. Say I had a lesser charge. I would say I would make the recommendation of you have to leave. This is what I'm saying, or I'm going to look at possibly charging you. And for your safety, his safety, and everybody's safety, I'm recommending separation. I've never had a person go against my recommendation of separation. You know, we've seen this. We've seen similar situations like this with the what was it? The Gabby Petito. I don't know if you're familiar with how that whole thing went out. But they weren't separated. You know, they weren't separated. He ended up taking her life, right? Mm-hmm. And so I always recommend that if I have an incident where they're quarreling together and it wasn't enough to arise, nothing arised enough for someone to go to jail, I say, listen, I understand you guys are doing this right here. We are here. I believe someone needs to be separated. Someone needs to decide. Do you have a friend? Do you have that? A lot of times, especially if it's the man who came close to being arrested, I always recommend, and I recommend the man do it because, once again, you're trying to protect your freedom. And again, a woman can easily say that he put me in fear for my life. And depending on the officer and how they look at it, can make a determination and make an arrest off of that. So I always encourage, man, the best thing you can do is remove yourself out of the situation. And then what do you do following up to that? What do you do following up? If a woman is willing to call the police on you, then she needs to be removed, right? You need to remove yourself out of that relationship. That's not something you play with, guys. That's not something you play with. And if it ever gets to a point to where a woman feels uncomfortable that much to where she needs to call the police, then that to me is the end of a relationship. I'm walking away from that.
Yeah.
Because you put me at risk. You put me at risk.
I'm looking at it like this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He throws the cell phone.
Right.
If you talk to her and she say, no, I'm good, I don't feel safe, I don't feel like he's going to hurt me, then you won't take him to jail.
Correct.
But if she says, I do feel like he's going to hurt me if he stays here, then you have to take him to jail. The situation that we came up with, okay, she get mad, she throw a cell phone, throw a vase or whatever. The man 99 times out of 100 is going to say, no, I don't feel like she's going to hurt me or whatever. Correct. But if he did say that, then you would do the same protocol and take her to jail. Because he says, I don't feel safe, you do some protocol would try to basically get her to leave. Basically.
Correct.
So he throws the cell phone. He spends, I'm assuming, a night in jail?
Yes.
He spends a night in jail, and then she spends the night at her mama's house.
Correct.
When she does the same thing. It's like that's unfortunate, but that does speak to how men operate.
Yes,
when it comes to this, that we gotta get out of that.
Yes,
we gotta get out of that. I don't like the idea. And shout out to the Hood Conservative Culture and Politics Review. He says you only do this to men. All of a sudden, he's a Minority Report. For those of you who are not familiar with the movie, that's when it was pre-crime. They had the technology to arrest somebody for a crime that they were going to commit in the future. That's kind of what's going on there, based off her not feeling safe. I don't like it. But then there's the issue that you just brought up, situation I know about with somebody, the police was called because somebody was, getting aggressive. The police came, the police left, then the person got killed later. So I understand that. I don't like it, but I follow the logic and the point of what you're saying, but I don't necessarily like it. The Clue Channel in the building, he says, let me guess, the man can't be in fear of his life. Well, we kind of already addressed that. The man says he's in fear, they will act on it. Now, are there situations that you know of where the man said he was in fear and then they kind of like soft shoot it a little bit, the police, or did the police 100% of the time act on it? If the woman is being hostile, she's being violent, the man state, even though most men don't say it, but if the man literally states, hey, I don't feel safe, I feel in fear of my life, I'm pretty sure she's gonna stab me when I go to sleep, and he says that 100% of the time, y'all get her the hell out of there. She got to do a night in jail. Yeah,
I did, because I understood the dynamic. I understood how unfair, sometimes sometimes I'm a backing officer where I don't have any say so. Sometimes you guys too have to remember whoever's first to respond to a crime is the lead head officer, and anyone who's following is the one who's supporting. So I've been in situations where I didn't like how officers handled a domestic, where I felt like they showed favoritism to one side or another, right? And I think perfect example is what happened with the baby, right? This woman is in his home and she's parading around. The officers are there giving her commands and she's just blowing it off. I'd have locked her up right then and there. Man, I told you to stay right here. See, I don't, just because you're a woman doesn't change anything. You know, I might not look at you as much of a threat per se, but I'm still looking at you to respect my authority. See, that doesn't change, right? So I might not fear you. It doesn't mean that you're not dangerous. But the reality is if I ask you to do something, I'm expecting you to do it. So that doesn't change. I treat a woman just like I treat a man as far as the respect for authority. If I'm there and I'm telling you to stay put, ma'am, I need you to come here. Wow, fuck 12. Oh, no. Hell no. We're not doing that. You know, come on, put these bracelets on. I got some platinum bracelets for you. And if we have any more problems, you don't want to cooperate, then you're hauled off for obstruction. We can call it a night. What people don't like in that incident, you see a woman who is completely disregarding and disrespecting the officers, and she was in the wrong. And so that's the issue, right? That men don't like to see. Men want equitable treatment, and I agree. And you have some officers that are equitable with how they treat women and men, and you have some officers that try to show a little favoritism because they're women. I just don't agree with that. And again, I treat everybody the same as I'm investigating, you know. And so in that situation, I think, let me guess, the man can't be in fear. Yeah, and again, yeah, men can be in fear, and men have said it, like, hey, she's crazy. She slashed my tires already. She did this, she did that. I'm going to her job and I'm picking her up. So it's just that some men, we just give women a lot more. We're just more lenient. At the end of the day, men are just a lot more lenient to our detriment. That's the problem. So a lot of the things that you guys are speaking on, we bring it on to ourselves. A lot of the problems that us men are having with women, a lot of times it's self-inflicted, you guys, because we see a woman's nature, the woman that we're with, we start to see her nature and we ignore it. We start to see the red flags and we ignore it all the way up until we get in handcuffs. And then I hear the whole story, you guys. I get to hear the whole story, you know. And I'm like, dude, this is the second time she had a man in your bed, and you're just now you're acting out, right? This not the first. So the question is, the real question with the ask is, why are we allowing ourselves to be finessed, right? Why are we allowing ourselves? And so once we filter out that the simp aid, is like I call that simp energy, you filter that out, you'll start seeing things a little bit more clear, you know. So. We gotta protect ourselves, you know.
Yeah, no doubt. No. Thank you for that super chat, Clue. And why would you stay with a chick who might stab you with the? I don't think nobody said stay with a chick that might stab you. Like, even people say stuff to imply that I said something that I didn't say. You know, I didn't say stay with a chick that might stab you. I was just giving an example of if the guy said, no, I'm fearful that this chick will stab me if she don't get removed up out of this house. And so remove her out of the house. And then and I'm asking the police, what do he do in that situation? Obviously nobody is saying stay with the chick. If I'm having the police remove a chick out of my house, then clearly we ain't together no more. If the police is physically removing her from my house. Come on, man.
Yeah, we got to critically think, you guys, when we have an adult conversation.
Yeah. All right. About to bring up Dion. Hopefully you're still ready to go. You had your camera on down there. Now it's off, and it looked like you got the little struggle avatar up right there. I don't know what's going on with that, but you definitely can join the convo.
My man.
Go ahead. What's going on? You got the floor. You have the mic. What you got on this subject?
Hey, Nathan. That was a great first stream for the other night.
Thank you, sir.
And Bernard, I
Yes, sir.
apologize. I didn't mean to offend whoever it was that hit me when I said they were cooning.
That was you.
Yeah, like someone made a joke, so I thought we're men. I could joke back, but apparently we got some sensitive people.
Well, no. One of the moderators thought that you probably were saying that me and Nathan
No.
was cooning. And some people come in and they just say that if we just having any subject where They don't see a black fist in the air, a Malcolm X poster on the wall, and some red, black, and green and incense. They like y'all up here cooning, talking about the cops. You know, so I think they probably thought you was one of those. That's what I thought. But
no, me and Nathan have a disagreement, but it was more of someone made a comment that this is why I don't do such and such with blacks or whatever. So I was like, oh, y'all cooning now.
All right, no, it's all good. It's all good. We don't got to relitigate that. But go ahead. What you got on the subject though?
Yeah, so he said this a couple times, and I went back and I saw his interview with the brother that does a bullpen.
Yeah, Dr. Rashad Ritchie.
That's right. I put some respect on his name, Dr. Rashad. And no, seriously, he's phenomenal. He's a phenomenal brother. But you know, I disagree with the notion that we need to pay police more.
Okay.
You know, like my passion is, and I'm looking into like what it is to become a what's that term? You could do like auxiliary police. Okay. So that's kind of what selfishly introduced me to your channel. I want to see what that looks like and get more black men involved, because it's kind of pathetic that I'm curious, like in terms of all the demographics that you see, like who do you see involved with the most? But back to what I was saying, I think that we should invest in the boys more. Like that's the root cause, you know, like before they start tearing up the community, you know, and really, you know, fixing the system that's locking dads out of their families. But that's, you know, beyond the policing. But that's just kind of what me and you have a slight disagreement in terms of, you know, paying, because you're just going to create another industrial complex. I don't think it's necessarily that these police are underpaid, but you're the expert, so I will default to you.
Okay. Let me say this. We don't disagree. We have a different vision as to what will actually work. There's a difference between there's a difference between what's a good idea than what's practical. There's a difference between what helps and what solves the problem, right? What you're saying helps, but it doesn't solve the problem. There's a multitude, it's multifaceted. There's multiple variables that need to be addressed, right? You say the boys, that's only one part of it, right? Think of it like this is different. The solution is a cube, and there's different sides to the same cube. What you're speaking on is one side. You're speaking on one side, which is completely fine. I don't disagree with you at all. When we say the boys need to be paid attention to. I would argue and say, yes, the men, yes, the women. I see children, boys and women, right? So just say the kids need to be addressed. You can't address
specifically the boys.
Okay, let's talk about the boys. I'm not, no disagreement there. You can't talk about the boys until you talk about the home. You can't address the home until you talk about the parents. So I've addressed boys, young men in our community all the time. I've arrested them. I've mentored them, right? As juveniles, 14, 15, 16. I've held them as they died. Do you understand what I'm saying? The same boy that I arrested at 15, I held him at 19 as he took his last breath. What does that mean? How does that make me feel, right? I caught this guy coming out of somebody's window. I was a part of a burglary task force in my department. Arrested him multiple times, the same guy. I've arrested multiple juveniles, but when I go to their home, it's broken. There's dysfunction there. There's no father present for whatever reason. There's a father that wants to be active. We can talk about active fathers, but just because you're an active father doesn't mean you're a quality father, right? Those are distinctions. We got to make distinctions. We have men that love to be with their children. They want families. But even if you're a man with no purpose, but you still want to have purpose in your child's life, doesn't mean you're feeding that child positive, right? I know kids whose fathers were active, but they were active criminals. What do you think he taught that young man? Do you get what I'm saying? So again, the question is save the boys. I say save the home, save the parents. What do the fathers look like that want to be a part of that child's life? Because if you're not a good mentor to your own child, then you're only reproducing the same problem in our community, right? So the question is, now we have these broken homes. We have women who have multiple children from multiple men, and there's no structure in that home. This woman has no control over her children. They run the streets all throughout the days and the nights, right? I have kids in Atlanta here getting shot, 14, 15 years old at 2 o'clock in the morning. Where are the parents at? Where's the father? He's in prison or he's dead. What is the mother doing? She's prostituting, right? She's under government assistance. She has no support from the family. She's under generational poverty. See, these are the things in our community that need to be addressed, right? So I agree with you. We don't disagree there. The question is, that is one side of a cube. I'm only representing one side of the same cube that you're talking about. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess I'll be more specific in terms of the disagreement, because I don't believe in throwing more money. The system of policing doesn't need more money thrown at it.
Okay, I agree.
It needs a deep surgery. You know, it needs something from the inside out. Okay. What I would say is, like, are you familiar with PAL?
PAIO?
Oh, PAL, the Police Athletics League.
Yes, PAL. Yes,
PAL.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I think programs like that are effective. Yes. And some people say, well, that's not the job of the police. Well, you know, we could call it something else, but it's a community program.
It's needed.
And it's definitely needed. And we have these boys out here, and let's be honest, who's committing the crime?
The men.
Like we know this.
Yes, the men.
We're all solid brothers up here. We know who's doing what.
Absolutely.
But what's not said enough is that we're actively ignoring these boys. I'm not going to deal with their fathers if they've left the home, or if the court system has pushed them out of their home, because that's another issue, right?
Yes. But
we need to have these programs available and not just throw these young men away. These are I think you mentioned these are perfectly good bodies, able bodies. You know, they serve a purpose and they're being neglected. So that's just my opinion. I don't believe in putting the funding towards policing. If anything, I would take away a little bit, and then raise the standard. So that's essentially where we kind of, and it's not a combative disagreement. We're thinking men. We're trying to attack this problem.
Listen, I'm intelligent. You never have to give me a disclaimer. All right.
Oh yeah.
Not an insult. I'm just saying that we are intelligent men having a conversation. You never have to give me a disclaimer. I know I do it because I know some people don't understand nuances. And what I'm saying to you is we are men of minds.
Yes.
And so when you make a point, I don't take offense to it. I don't think you're working the angle. I know for a fact 100% you're genuine and you're coming from a place of concern. So let's have a mental conversation. To your point about the police, here's where I give my insight, because again, you have a legitimate concern. I don't disagree with it, because you represent the minds and the thoughts of hundreds, thousands of other people in this country, even represent the thoughts of people in our community. This is why my channel and Bernard giving me an opportunity to speak here is so important, because we don't have any representation speaking about these topics to be able to provide insight. What's my insight on this? You say departments are too much money, don't want to fund them anymore. This is how I'm a problem solver, and I've helped create some small policies and departments, nothing major, but I am a problem solver. It's something that I really, really pat myself on the back about. I look at solutions. Here's how I come up with solutions. I have, again, an expensive one. I talked about it on my channel. One that's expensive, that covers all the issues. I have one that's a moderate expense type of problem solving solution. And lastly, I have one that's free. I have a free solution for the same problem we're talking about. I always present that to my department head. I send it to my chief. Hey, here are my solutions to the problem. Now, the first one's the most expensive. It'll solve the problem. It's what I want. It's what everybody wants. If you don't like it because it's too expensive, I got a second one for you. If you don't like that, that's moderate. You don't like it, cool. I got one that's free and it won't cost a thing. Now, if you don't want to do it, you are telling me in this moment that you don't want to solve the problem because it costs you nothing to do. When we're talking about the police issue, I have a solution for all of them. I have one that costs a lot of money, one that doesn't cost so much, and one that's free. And we could talk about all three when we're talking about police reform. So if you say to me that you are not okay with the police budget, what officers get right now is more than enough. I say, okay, I'm going to work with it and I'll give you a solution for it. The problem is there's always a trade-off. You have to be willing to accept the trade-off. That's the only difference. What does that mean? If we take money, I believe we need to reallocate what's already given to the police. Use it in a different way. There's a way for it to work. Because here's the thing, if we can't get more money, then what are we going to do? I say we can reduce officers, pay the ones that are present more, pay the ones that are quality more, reduce the department size. Let's say we do that.
That I could get behind.
All right, let's get behind it. Let's work through it. We reduce the department size. That's completely fine. I agree with it because I know what the real issues are. We need more investigators in departments to investigate crimes. Officers are reactive. We show up, things are already done a lot of times, right? What are the issues with policing? We want them to be paid more. Why? Because the job is dangerous. We can use the funds that are already there to pay officers more, give them better quality training. But what do we need to do in exchange? We need to reduce the types of crimes these officers respond to, right? Reduce the amount of crimes because our violent crimes only represent maybe 10 to 15% of the call volume. So now we have officers not responding to your home alarms. We have officers not responding to traffic accidents.
Let me jump in and ask you
Go
this.
ahead.
The investigating thing. Okay,
Mhm.
we need more investigators. Explain, I guess explain how that would actually help. You're talking about investigators, like
Okay.
that sounds like reactionary too. You're talking about them investigating, crimes after the fact, or you talk like what exactly is it that these investigators are going to be doing out on the ground that's going to help in some way?
Because the real issue is crime solving. Police officers don't always have the opportunity to solve crimes in the moment. It's very rare because they respond as officers. We're responding to 911 dispatch calls. We're there to take a report. Or we're there to address a violent situation in progress, right? But 80% of the
I know you explained what the cops do. What do investigators do?
Investigators are following up on the police reports that are written by the officers. So, for example, your house gets broken into. You call 911. The police officer shows up. Just take the report. The crime already happened. It's done.
Okay.
So I'm there. Okay, Bernard, house broken into. Cool. What was missing? Okay, cool. Thanks. Boom. I leave you with the card, my business card, and I leave and I go to the next call because it's busy. Who calls you back? The investigator. The investigator's job is to find out who broke into your home. As an officer who's a patrol officer, I don't have time to look into it because there's 911 calls going on and I'm busy. That's not my job. The investigators then go to their desk and they find out 20 houses have been broken into in one day. This is real. Their job is to investigate 20 home burglaries throughout the entire police department. Okay. So domestics, same thing. I handle domestics. Say the suspect is gone. Say the woman is the suspect. She slashed the man's tires, right? And then she disappears. I do the report, I leave. Then investigators follow up, they call, figure out where she's at, where she's living, where can we pick her up, where can we go to find her to interview her. The problem with investigators is that citizens want their crime solved. We have a lot of criminals out here running around that haven't been caught yet, not because the officers can't catch them, but because there's not enough investigators working these leads on these cases. You have an investigator who has a load of maybe 30, 40 cases, and they can't clear them. In Atlanta, again, I had a case where I'm giving Atlanta a murder, some updates, evidence to a murder investigation. And he's like, listen, I got 5 people who just got shot and killed yesterday. Okay, I had an officer. I have a case right now where we're investigating officer-involved shooting. I don't have time. I'll get with me in about 2 months. You see what I'm saying? And so these people aren't getting the attention, not because the officers don't want to do it, because we don't have enough investigators. It's
okay. So it sounds like so the investigator is more times than not, and just to make a reference that people will recognize, the investigator is more than likely the cops that we see on the TV shows that are trying to figure out or solve the crime, so to speak.
Correct.
Now,
Correct.
okay, so you get more investigators out there. You got more cops snooping around, asking more questions, following up on this lead and that lead, and going to talk to this person. Boom, 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 knocking on this person's door. This person inadvertently dry snitch, drop a name. They go follow up there, and they doing all of that. Okay,
correct.
Now here's the problem. Even though I have no problem with that. I just want to make it clear. I have no problem with that. What black folks are gonna say to that is that's over policing, because I do believe that will result in more people getting locked up. But if they're doing a proper investigation and they find the people that did the crime and they locking up the people that did wrong, I got no problem with that. I got no problem with that.
It's not over policing.
But we'll so to explain to me how they're not going to react to that. They got less police officers responding to the dispatch calls and all of that, but they got more investigators. So that's more cops, investigating, asking questions, possibly interrogating, and the whole works. That how do you think it's possible that they're not going to call that over policing? And shout out to Emmett Ben Israel. He said, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. He was like, more iced teas from Law and Order. Yeah. That's the investigator, the Law and Order dudes. Yeah.
The difference is the victims are black, and the victims are the ones reporting the crimes in the first place. We're talking about the black community. So the black community is saying, hey, again, I worked in a burglary suppression unit. So we handle burglaries. We'd have, in one day, I'd have 7 to 10 homes broken into. And so what happens, I'm investigating, I'm taking evidence, fingerprints, all that, trying to get cameras, door to door, whatever. I work with the investigators. Our job is try to solve this problem. So when an investigator says, hey, I see I got 5 more today. I had 5 yesterday. I had 30 the day before. I'm only one person who has to look into all these accounts. Let's look at fraud. It's the same thing. Today, I have 50 fraud cases on my desk. How's one man, one woman supposed to look in all that? The problem is not the over policing. The problem is the criminals are over criminalizing the community. So no, they're not going to look at it. They're not going to look at it as over policing, because one, investigators are showing up in a suit, and they're showing up in a non-threatening manner. Hey, ma'am, I'm just here in the neighborhood to ask you some questions. I heard that you were a victim of this crime, and how can we help? Whatever. And
what? That's so interesting, because I don't even know. I think most people in here, if they had to say that, I'll just speak for myself. I've never seen that. I've never seen cops show up in a suit. I thought that was only on TV.
No,
like those are actually. So that is interesting. That is interesting. I've never seen that in real life. The cop that shows up in a suit to sit down and talk to people. Never seen that. Never seen
that.
Hey,
Bernard, can I ask something too? I know you didn't call up on me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I ain't calling you yet, but whatever. Actually, I'm gonna bring somebody up. Dean or Dion or Houdini. I'm gonna drop you down, brother. Thank you for coming on up, and and I know you cleared up the comment that got you hit. but so salute to you. Keep
him in the background, because I want to follow up with him too. Keep him in the background after we.
All right. Yeah, we'll just hang out for a second. I'll probably rotate you back up. I'm gonna bring up Fawcett Media, and we're gonna pass it to OG real quick. But the Clue channel in the building. He says you have political black women saying that the nuclear family is a white supremacist talking point. Let's start there. That's referring back to the conversation that they were having about fixing the family or fixing the boys or whatever they was talking about.
Those
there.
are that's BLM talking points there.
Yeah. No. Yeah, we despise all that over here. So
exactly.
Yeah. But JC in the building. He says, "Black men, please." Hold on, let me blow that up. Make that a little bigger. He said, "Black men, please start voting Republican or conservative. Stop voting against your best interest." I do think that they definitely need to stop voting liberal, stop voting with the Democratic Party. I ain't in the business of telling them where to vote, but they definitely. I don't know how black men still Democrats out here. But all right. Let's thank y'all for the super chat. Appreciate everybody who support the stream. And shout out to KD. I got it scrolling down there. Who dropped a $50 cash app on me. Thank you. And hey, y'all didn't have to time this out. Somebody just came in through. Does your channel support the LGBTQ community? Support them to do what? Like, what? I don't even understand that statement. He just said, "Do we support them? What do you support them to do what?" I don't understand what you mean by support. Okay. Anyway. OG in the building. You have to. Oh wait, well, hold on. Uncle Stu on the block. Hey, I saw your email. Read it. I didn't get to respond to it, but I got you. Shout out to Uncle Stu, the old man on the block. Appreciate you coming through. Emmett Ben Israel says only on first 48 is when I see them in suits. Yeah. I've never seen cops in suits in real life. So yeah, they probably
depends on the department. It depends on the department.
And I will say this because a situation from my personal life, a cousin of mine who was out there running astray. He's 15 years old. He was into all kind of stuff he shouldn't have been in. He was shot and killed, and not even gonna get into the details of it.
Right.
But I never actually saw the cops who did the investigation. But after just talking to the family about how they found out who did it, the investigators kicked ass.
Yep.
They did their job, and they really got down to the bottom of that and found out who did it. It took them about 2 weeks. But they solved the case. So yeah, that's probably and now this dude who would have got away with it, who was, quite to be honest, brutally honest, he was another teenage kid out there gang banging and doing all kind of whatever, yeah, he would have went on, lived his life, and probably did some more ill stuff. But they caught him. They got him off the streets. But then there's the black folks. Oh, they locking up our youth.
Yeah.
But no.
Look at the
But
behavior.
Anyway, I'm not going there on that one. I'm not going there on that one right now. But no, good. Yeah, I never thought about that. This is the first time somebody ever heard anybody say that. Less police officers, more investigators. Never. That's a new concept. Very new concept for me. But all right, OG, you got the floor. You got the mic.
Good morning, Bernard, and good morning to your guests. And
it's afternoon. It's afternoon.
Okay, well, my time in California is 9:46. Okay, all right. So get it straight. So we all don't live in the same coast. I like this brother here. You gonna find out, Bernard. This is my bread and butter, so I won't be doing no jokes today. He brings up a good point. I'm gonna tell you, there's a 2-4 thing with that investigator too. And it's kind of surprising to me that people have never seen an investigator for all the crimes that are unsolved in our community, have never seen them in suits. Investigators, number one job is to follow up on the report and make the report as good as possible so he can walk it over to the DA to decide if it's going to be rejected or it's going to be accepted. And that's what we don't understand. Correct. Just because the police arrest you don't mean that you have to go to court. The DA decides if there's going to be charges pressed. He's arresting you for a code or criminal code, but he don't get to make the decision if you go to court or not. The DA must do that, and it goes hand in hand with the investigator report of the initial report to make a strong case. So when you do walk it over to the DA, that it's going to be accepted. I'm gonna ask the brother, are you working for did you work for Fulton County or DeKalb County?
DeKalb.
Okay, I work for DeKalb County Fleet Maintenance, so you know what kind of job I did.
Okay, yes, sir. Yes,
sir. Anyway, I worked for them about 9 years. Okay. I used to know, I like DeKalb, how they do things. What they usually do, get the rookies coming out straight out of the rookie school, past the academy, and then they turn them into he know what I'm talking about right now. These are guys who don't have fresh faces, and they become some of the best detectives in the division. Because they got fresh faces, they're not known, and they can move. Most of them look young, so they can maneuver in the community all types of ways.
Right.
The other point I want to bring up too is the PAL. I actually boxed for the PAL in Charlotte, North Carolina for almost 19 years. And so I do see that as being a very important in making first contact with young men and young boys, due to the fact you have basketball, football, you have all types of sports. And at that time, it really helped me to engage with the police officer without being a threat. Them being a threat. This guy sounded like, to me, one of the police officers took me by the hands, Officer Stadia in Charlotte, North Carolina, and got me in the boxing gym. So I like his aura. I like everything about him. And one thing about it that's I'm on both sides of that stick. I'm an advocate for people's rights, and I'm an advocate for police officers too. And then you can say, how can you be on both sides? When you got good police, Bernard, that's its best. When you got bad apples in the bunch, that's what makes the police department have sustain. And they really don't have a system, not in the United States, really today, that good police officers can report bad police officers without having a tag put on their back. They really don't have that in the United States. And I'd be glad when they ever pass some kind of law that would protect good police officers to report bad ones. Let me see what else I wanted to say. But I think that's a good thing when you make contact with young boys when they're young, because just like you say, they really don't have that father figure in the house. They got a mother figure in the house. You take them off for 2 and 3 hours of the day playing football, basketball, boxing, track, or whatever they're doing. If you can see the power of that, because I can tell you, all my friends who didn't join PAL, all of them, most of all of them end up on the other side of the track. I'm telling you. And the ones who did, not all of them was perfect. I can say about 75% of them kind of like with straight line. You know what I mean? I ain't saying they didn't do things to where they could get arrested. And this way I wanted to move the conversation more to making people understand the law. Just because a police officer has suspicions don't mean he has probable cause.
Very true.
And you got to understand that. That meaning when he pull you over with that broken tail light or whatever, if something not in plain view, then he cannot go and start searching your car without your permission. Now, if he sees something in plain view, yes. If he see a marijuana or something and you living in a state that is not legal, now that point right there, he has proper cause to search your whole car. And a police officer ever asks you to search your car, just say no, just in general. Keep no in your mind. Because what's going to happen when you go to court, to a hearing, pre-hearing, it's going to be things because what evidence is going to be led into that courtroom. And if you got a good attorney, and this is where black people get off the track sometimes. A lot of times when white people go through something, a police officer can tell what that person can afford, a good attorney or whatever. And in this case right here, it's going to make him look bad. He don't proceed on. But most of the time you get black people, they get to talking too much, saying too much. And that's what builds their case more than anything. Shut your mouth. That's number one. Shut your damn mouth. Most people who think they're smart about the law, most lawyers wouldn't even let them get on the witness stand. I'm talking about their own lawyer because they know it would blow the case. So that's first thing is you have a right to be silent and do that and use it. Because a lot of times you open your mouth, a lot of stuff you go say is going to be used against you. And the more you talk, the more the police is trained to understand your movements, your behavior, and the things you say if you're guilty beyond what he's looking for. And that makes him look a little more. So I just wanted to get that in and let you know this is my bread and butter, Bernard. I have helped a lot of people in the street, and I have helped a lot of policies as far as people in the street that I deal with by police. Not you got to understand too, people. This is the last thing I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna be like my brother, but this is the last thing I'm gonna say. Dealing with police officers, sometimes you got to understand when you come up the way I came up, they human too. They want to get home to their family too. All right, and especially with DV cases. There are some of the most harsh cases that a police officer really don't even want to be involved with because the other person can turn on the police officer so quick. I mean, the calling party. And another thing, if the police not treating you right, and this is just like I say, this is the last thing. If a police not treating you right, please request to speak to his sergeant, supervisor, or watch commander. You use them 3 things. Okay, that means like the follow-up when he said he was a follow-up police officer, that means he really don't have any power. He's just to assist the first officer on the scene. But if you call the sergeant or the watch commander, he do have decision power. because he's the one to go bring there and get an understanding of what code you go be arrested for if you go be arrested. And yes, in the state of California, you can be arrested by taking your cell phone, throwing it in the wall. We seen that with Jim Brown, who went out there and did something to his car and ended up getting the DV case. And another thing, there's a loophole in that too. An officer can look at a person and say he's a risk to himself, he is a harm to himself or others, and then he get a 72-hour evaluation from a mental hospital. So you have to be cool and level-headed, people.
Yep.
All right. That's all I wanted to say, Bernard, without any jokes today.
Right on. Well, no,
Appreciate that, brother.
It's jokes even when you're talking. I mean, when you said men's assists.
Well, you know I'm gonna say men's, like I'm gonna say men's, like
police
assists and all that other stuff. You know I'm gonna get that. I'm from Georgia. If you keep him talking long enough, some of that education gonna fall off his ground.
That DeKalb education.
P Blazer in the building. He says, why would anyone advocate for a blanket uniform vote for Republicans when that's the same era that was made with the left? Agreed 100% with that one. Rod of God podcast. I thank God the cops. Let me make that bigger so I can see it real quick. I thank God that the cops at my domestic incident understood that. Okay, I was about to crack a joke. I ain't gonna go there on you, Rod. I ain't gonna go there on you. I thank God that I think you told me about that. I think we talked about that on the air. But I think the cops at my domestic incident understood that I was agitated because of adrenaline and testosterone and didn't believe the woman falsely claiming they feared me after jumping me. Wait, no, I don't think we talked about that, but yeah, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. That's probably something we need to discuss. We can do a show. We can do a show on that. Shout out to you. Shout out to you, Rod of God podcast channel member and supporter. Appreciate that, brother. Freeman's Journal in the building. He says, why black people need to be cops. Good cop gets bad cop fired and arrested. Okay, he posted a link of a situation where a good cop got a bad cop arrested. That's what's up. We got Darius Harper in the building. He says, what is that? DeKalb? What is that? Is that I don't know what that is.
That's
that's the city, the county city. Okay. What's the DeKalb PD like? I know some brothers in the DeKalb Fire Department. They said it's weird and racist because they put all the black firemen in the suburbs and the white firemen in the hood. That is a weird racist practice. Like, what's the benefit of that? I don't know. I don't see what's the racial benefit in having black people put out white fires and white people putting out black fires. Yeah. Like, our police are you saying firefighters, like there's a white firefighter just sitting back, we just gonna watch it burn? We see a kid in the upstairs window screaming, we just gonna sit back and let it burn? Like, I mean, I don't what's the racial argument there? I don't get that one. I just don't. All right. Shout out to you. Appreciate the super chat though. I think that's it on the super chat end. Okay, we put the pass down to my man. Everything
race.
Yeah. All right, we about to pass it to my man Fawcett Media. Go ahead, you got the floor. You got the mic.
What's up, Bernard? What's happening, Nathan?
What's going on?
How you doing, sir?
Yeah, somebody in the comments said you might want to reach for your glasses, so I went and got mine. I was like, oh yeah, let me grab my glasses so I can, but Nathan, I gotta say, you have really shown up really strong on the YouTube. I've caught you on TLA's channel a couple of times, and like,
thank you.
I like the message that you're pushing. It's about having good officers that kind of have a good message to put out there. These glasses get on my nerves. I'm actually nearsighted, so but do you think your message would be better served in, say, like, do you have any political aspirations? Like, would it be better served if you were in political office as opposed to being a cop on the beat, on the actual force? Because it seems like there's little you can do at this, but maybe more you can do as a politician, actually.
So I'm retired. I had to medically retire. I was involved in in a horrific assault, and I was trying to detain someone, and
That's what the car dragged you.
and I got dragged, and so I just maybe a couple months ago, got to a place where I'm like, hey, I can, like I would say earlier this year, I'm like, okay, I want to do something, want to do something to help. And I've had someone ask me about politics and stuff, and I'm not opposed to it. I don't know where God's going to lead me, you know what I mean, or how things are going to unfold. I just know that I have a gift, and I know there's a calling for me to speak out and say things, and so I'm doing my part. I want to do my part because I'm not the type of person to complain. I'm the type I'll complain, but then I'll be solving the problem in the middle of the complaint, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm the type of person where I understand, like I truly understand. I'm not mad at people for being upset, so, and I really love serving and helping people. And so, and I see what was going on behind the scenes. I understand where the issues are. And sometimes people see all the smoke, but they're not close enough to see the fire. And if you're not close enough to see the fire, you don't know how the fire was started to begin with. And so we have a lot of people on the outside speculating, like, oh, I bet the fire's over there and doing that. And it's like, no. Technically, it's not. I was in the fire. I played in it. So I understand what started it, what caused it. And I can see the bigger picture. And so my thing is, I've always been a firm believer that you can get more done working with the people than you can as a politician, right? And honestly, I'm trying to see how bad our people really want change, because there's a difference between asking for police reform and then focus on police gossip. And if we focus on police gossip, we're not going to get anything done. But if I challenge you and say, I have the evidence, I have the truth, I know what's going on, here's what it is, and here's how we need to fix it. And if you're not willing to do the work, then I know you don't mean what you say. And so the challenge is that you have someone coming here and to be honest and transparent and be genuine. And I'm asking for your help as a community. We can solve this problem. It's not a problem that can't be solved, but it's not a problem that can be solved by ourselves. And it's not a problem that can be solved by asking another group, another ethnic group, to fix it for us. And so we have to be mindful of that, in my opinion. We have to be mindful of that.
Well, Nathan, that leads to my next point, because I did have some pushback to what you were saying about how the police were, the defund the police movement wasn't the right method to go about for the police, because it seems like the response, especially out here in California, apparently we're going through a crime wave. I don't necessarily feel it in my area.
Okay.
But, the response to defund the police movement has been almost to police throw up their hands.
Right.
And at my vantage point, I'm looking at it like, some of the police I know are some of the highest paid Black men that I know, or they're at least doing well in the middle class.
Correct.
And you look at police funding going towards tanks, going towards militarizing police forces with AR-15s and all this other stuff, these crazy responses. I live in California. They're going up the hill, the 14 on the slightest notice, bomb scare, cat in the tree, something like that. It just seems like a lot of this finance that goes into it, you couldn't expect, and then also the police shootings that are happening, you couldn't expect for the public to not push back and say, there's a misuse of funds, like you said, retired in patrol car, or retired in
RIP, retired in place.
Yeah, the people that are retired in place, not really doing the job but collecting a check.
Correct.
It seems like there's a lot of waste. How could you really address what people are saying in a way that isn't throw up your hands and don't do anything? Because that leads to more crime, as we're seeing, right?
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy. Honestly, it's really easy. The problem is the communication's bad, right? It's all about communication. This is a relationship. We have some officers that forgot their role. We're servants. We're servants first. And as servants, you have to listen to the people you're serving. And when the communication is broken, that's a problem. Because as a servant, I'm telling you why I'm having a hard time serving you, but you don't want to listen. But then at the same time, you're telling me why you have a hard time respecting me as a servant. And we're not trying to listen. Because you made up a good point. You said defund the police is a good idea. But see, the marketing campaign was horrible. The optics doesn't sound good. Remember, we are hearing the message. You're talking about people who were taking bullets, risking our lives. We don't get paid enough for the job that we do. You might say California officers get paid well, but I would argue that the cost of living in California is high. So the pay doesn't match the cost of living for officers, not for what they do. So we have to look at the nuances here. What you're saying is not incorrect. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. What would have been a more appropriate, mind you, we're talking about people who have an agenda. Division is profitable in this country. If they can divide people, they can make money. They use police as a political tool to make their arguments, to win votes. That's the problem. The police are being turned against the people they're serving, and they did it just like that. Why? Because the people are so sensitive, so emotional. We've allowed these word wizards to get into our heads and influence the way we look at things, change our perception. Here's the problem. There's things that need to be examined in police departments. Absolutely. The budget can be a little excessive with certain things. Absolutely. There's a need for certain things, and there's an excessive, right? There's a problem with being too excessive, right? With certain things. And I agree with you on that. But then I can also show you in instances where having certain equipment is appropriate. And so the question lies, how are we spending our money? There are areas where we are wasting a lot of money. Absolutely. You know, there are areas where officers are taking advantage. Absolutely. Now, how do we fix it? There's solutions to it. So then if we're talking about the budget, if we bring up the budget and we actually look at a police budget and we say, here's what's going on inside a police department. And the gentleman here as well, he had the same question. We're wasting money. I wouldn't say we're wasting money. I would say that there's too much. We're not allocating the money properly. The people are saying, listen, we want something different, you guys. Society has changed. We're changing. We want the police department to evolve. The police department, some of us are stuck in our ways and we're like, we don't want to change. But we're servants to the people first. So we have to take notice to that and say, okay, we're servants. We need a good advocate to come and say, here, let's translate what it is we need. The people want something from us. Can you explain to us the best way to do it? We're telling you what our concerns are. So I say this, yes, it's time for us to evolve, but we need to do it in a way that we are also keeping the police in mind, taking in consideration their job, their task, what it entails. We need to listen to both sides because truth be told, where can we save money? In a lot of places. But by saving money, we are also relinquishing a lot of responsibilities off of law enforcement. For example, if we say this, we're going to $1 million in this department is how much they're taking right now from the tax dollars, $1 million a year. Let's say people are saying defund the police. No. Their slogan should have been let's reform the police, right? And here are our talking points. See, that's more digestible because when you say defund, that's a trigger word. It's very insensitive. It can be considered disrespectful. It's no different when you have people say blue lives matter, black lives matter, right? They say, hey, that's insensitive. This is what police are saying. Your statement was really insensitive. We took offense to it. And what that means is it sounds like we're perceiving it to be that you're saying that we're not valuable, we're not important. And
if I'm not mistaken, 1 second. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
If I'm not mistaken, the initial reason for defund, the word defund in that statement, defund the police, was to reallocate this resources into other methods of policing or like responding to like a 5150 call.
Correct.
Or, you know what I mean?
Correct.
Or to have some people, some mediators in place that can actually handle these things differently.
Right.
And I just think at a certain point, are the police now playing sensitive when they hear the word defund, and now they want to, like I said, throw up their hands or
Absolutely.
be
absolutely
unreactionary.
That was my going to be my response to they shouldn't be so damn sensitive. They should have just had the conversation.
Yeah, what happened to the manhood we talk about all the time?
Yeah.
You know?
Before we get into that, let me see. Light Bearer Council in the building. He says, I had 5 red dogs jump me and put me in jail in DeKalb County without saying they were cops. Whoa. They got mad when I beat them up in defense, told them I didn't want to fight, need more good cops. F DeKalb. Yeah. Wow.
I'm gonna be honest with them. That's probably a very true story with some nuances in it. And so I'm familiar with the Red Dogs. They're a unit that got disbanded. And you know, that's a conversation about
what okay, so they were a unit. Like what were they supposed to be though? Like they're
a proactive crime enforcement unit.
Okay, so they walked around not in uniform.
No, they're in uniform. That just not the standard police uniform. They would probably be in like BDUs type of thing.
Racist complaints as well.
Oh, wait. They'll be in what? BBUs? What?
BDUs.
What is that?
So BDUs is the name of a uniform, training uniform for military. So they're in what you would say more of a military style uniform.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. You said they were disbanded, broken up. Was it a particular reason why? Like because corruption? Like what was the reason why?
I don't recall. I think the department was changing directions on being more community oriented, you know, but we still have crime suppression units. But I think again, the community speaks out. It's the optics, right? It's the optics. And so I think everything comes down to I think the county started looking at what the community is saying in response. The problem is this: we have an area in our communities. We have areas in our communities that are high crime areas where the crime is outrageous, you guys. And so you have complaints from the community members that they want it to stop. They want it to be reduced. So what is the answer to the police department? We need to put together a special unit to address these crimes that everyday officers can't address because they don't have time. And so they are a response to the crime. So I always tell communities, you have to rise to these complaints as well and help us address these things.
Nah, that's a forever and always lose. Crime is too high in our community. We need to do something about this high crime in our community. They do something about it. They over policing us. So yeah, there's no way to get around that one.
Nope.
There's no way to fix that one. Young Dolph in the building. He says only carefully targeted eugenics programs can resolve this matter. The cancer must be cut out of society. Shout out to Young Dolph.
Yeah, Hitler said the same thing.
That's Young Dolph. Yeah,
that's true.
I got a question.
You didn't get it. You just got it. You just got it.
Yeah.
Young
I just got it. Yeah, I just got it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Dolph, the guy, the gang, the rapper who just.
That's what I thought first. It took me like 5 minutes to get it. But that's actually a picture of young
Dolph. I didn't even.
Yeah, no. It took me a minute to.
Are we sure that's not a white guy?
I don't care. It was so funny that I let it ride. I gave him a wrench because he was super chatting when he was super chatting. So I'm gonna take his wrench eventually. But it was just too funny. I give points. I give points for good jokes, man. That Young Dolph was too funny.
He must have made the account just for that, right?
Yes, literally. After the rapper, who I never heard of until he died, when Young Dolph the rapper died, he made the account Young Dolph, and I'm like, why is your name Young Dolph with some picture of a random white kid? And then after like 5-10 minutes, oh, Young Adolf, Young Dolph, I get it.
You got to show your face to do something, to post something like that. Too many of these white trolls.
No, I get it. I'm not triggered by the comment. It was funny, okay? It was funny. But if he start clowning, Yeah, I mean, I'll block him. Normally, it was all the initial just posting the Young Dolph. It was fun spirited. But yeah, if he's gonna be talking about eugenics and all of that, okay, then okay, maybe then I got to worry about the algorithm. But I'm not just triggered. by that. So,
JB in the building.
All right, shout out to my main man, JB. in the building. He says, "Hey Nathan, were you on a Lifetime show called Married at First Sight?" What?
Yeah. I had a little. I tried to dive into some. I was doing some acting stuff in a minute for back in the day, you guys. I did some acting.
Wait.
Yeah.
No, we need a solid yes. Okay, so you were on a show called Married at First Sight. Okay, did you
Get out of here?
Stop. Oh, you got married at first sight.
Negative. No, I was on the show. Yeah. No, I didn't get married. I get married anyway. I'm not married, but no, I was on the show.
What was you doing on the show?
So basically, I played one of the characters that was trying to date one of the lady who's supposed to pick.
Oh, like, so you didn't win?
Nah, I didn't win.
You was trying to get married at first sight, but you didn't.
Nah.
You didn't.
Well, I was acting, and yeah.
Oh,
so
it was acting. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay, this was This was a reality TV show.
Reality TV show on Lifetime.
It wasn't quite. It wasn't quite reality because you were acting.
Correct.
Okay.
That stuff's not real, you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no. I know a lot of it is fake, but I just wanted to make sure we got all of that down. Okay. Well, ooh, man.
Yeah,
all right. That's
funny. She called me a chauvinist. Yeah.
Why'd she call you a chauvinist? What'd you say?
I just asked her questions that a man is going to ask a woman about certain things.
What was the question?
The problem was she was a feminist. So, I mean, she was a black woman and she was a feminist.
What was the question?
I asked. I mean, it was a couple. One particular that I remember. I asked her if she was older. She was in her 30s, and I asked her. I said, "Hey, since we're on this little date, I said, what are your thoughts on children? Do you want children? And if so, how many?" As a man, I want kids, so I'm asking her, what does she look like? Because you don't have any children yet, and you're coming of age. As we know, as men, what that means for women. They have that what do they call it? They be at risk after a certain amount. She took offense to that question. She took a big offense to it. And my thing is that to me, as a man, it's a legitimate question. She took offense to it, and so she kind of called me out on it and was like, do you have an issue with women that are feminists? And I said, no. I don't have an issue with women are feminists. You can be whatever you want, but I do prefer a woman that's a little bit submissive. And she got up in the middle of the conversation and walked away. Yeah. And she took offense to that. And some women are uncomfortable with that word. And if I meet a woman, she's uncomfortable with that word, then that to me is a red flag. Because that word within itself isn't negative, right? And so what can you do?
I am confused. You're always confused, Snuggles. Says, I am confused why the words get you all excited enough to want to ban people because their comments isn't that the problem with the community. No, that's not the problem with the community, but that can be a problem with some people. Yeah, some people get too triggered by some things. I mean, I the young Dolph thing, that's just funny. I take that joke in stride very well. But yeah. All right. We are at the 2 hour and 56 minute mark. We're gonna actually. We're gonna do a final round of last words. So I'm just want to bring OG up. Let OG get his last words. We're gonna go around the table from OG to I think that is what's your name down there? I know you're Houdini Unchained in the chat. What do you go by? Dean. Okay, Houdini. Dean. I got it. All right, so we're gonna go OG Dean, Fawcett Media, and then the guest of honor, and we're gonna do some last words. So let's go ahead and go. OG, you got anything to say?
Yes, sir. I always got something to say.
Okay, I forgot. We're keeping the last words very brief, so that's all you get. All right.
Oh, boy, you funny as hell. Boy, you funny as hell today, but you must be eating a whole good dose of rabbit shit yourself today. You get smart by the moment. Anyway, my brother never asks a woman in her 30s about her almost old eggs. And if you do that, you always get in trouble. So
ask away.
We gotta ask away about them. Yeah.
But them eggs was getting old. They post dated. So But anyway, you say you just you're looking for some kind of spirit to lead you in the right way for you in the future because you retired from the DeKalb County Police Department, and you ever think about? I mean, Jose Williams could be a councilman in Atlanta. I know you, and he's passed away now, but I'm just saying, if he could be a councilman in Atlanta, I'm pretty sure you can fit them shoes with no problem at all. Because Jose used to have county cars because he was a councilman, and he used to wreck and get drunk and wreck, and they try to cover it up. We had to fix him up. You remember? Okay. So you know where I worked at. All right. Anyway, but look, man, it was nice talking to you. I'll probably be trying to go over to your channel and do a little bit of investigation on you, and see, do you pass the litmus test?
All right.
And you did this morning. You're going to have some haters because, everybody love to hate me, so don't worry about it. So if you're doing 75% over here, you're doing good. Have a nice holiday weekend, and then, take care of yourself and stay safe, man.
Appreciate it, brother. I appreciate that.
All right. We going to Dean with your last words. What you got?
So to Nathan, my comment earlier about how we're thinking, that wasn't necessarily to you specifically, because I think we're basically in line. It was to maybe to women or to other people who are watching and might look at two brothers having a conversation and think something else.
Understood.
But in general, I'm very much invested in your channel because like I mentioned, I'm looking into auxiliary police.
Okay.
I know in major cities, they don't have auxiliary police. You have real police, but where I live at, that kind of gives you an insight of where I live. But, I'm trying to see what I can do to help with this whole situation, because I do believe, like OG said, the PAL program and I'm forgetting the guy's name on the bottom there, what he said in terms of putting other programs. I think we should do more proactive and preventative things instead of reacting by putting more money into police.
Yes. So. Let's shoot me an email. And then we'll do let's do a live together, because I like exactly what you're saying. I don't have any issues with that, because in my mind, in my vision, again, I believe that our community should be able to police ourselves. And so auxiliary policing is a very great solution for it. I believe any community should be able to opt in or out of law enforcement, right? So if you don't want police in your community, I feel like you should have a right to choose that, right? You say you get approval from the city or the county that you live in and say, hey, these 5 blocks, we want this. We want our own auxiliary, our own private officers that we get to vet and get to have. What's wrong with that? I don't see any problem with that. And so as long as they're accepted by the community and you have an auxiliary unit, absolutely, 100%. And so I think that's something that needs to be explored more, but now here's the caveat. What the community is going to ask, right? If we have auxiliary people that we chose, then the same community has to look upon the members of the community who aren't living right and aren't doing right and are actually terrorizing, right, their own community. The community then has to point them out, because say, hey, you are bringing the negative attention to us, which brings the police in here. And we should be able to govern ourselves. Atlanta, the mayor tried to do it. She allowed them to start their own blockade and block out a street. And it caused the murder of a lot of people in that area.
Wait a minute. Okay, now this is supposed to be final words.
So I'm sorry.
But no, not you. I'm talking to myself right now, but I'm researching stuff. Because I know very little about auxiliary policing, but it's I'm just looking up something right now. It says auxiliary police, Royal Oak, Michigan. Said the auxiliary police unit is an unarmed, ununiformed volunteer unit which draws its members from Royal Oak. What? Unarmed, ununiformed. That just sounds like we just about to get into a fist fight. I ain't listening to you.
They're done, you can't have them in certain communities. To kind of put it nicely, Bernard.
All right.
Hey, say what you mean. Mean what you say now. Let people know, because again, if you're suggesting that we have an auxiliary police unit, basically what we're saying is we want community security guards to police our own communities. Now, see, we got a brother shaking his head.
That's not what I'm saying. That's what I'm doing, just to try, instead of just talking, right?
No, I get what you're saying. And we can talk. We'll talk more about it, and I can give you my advice. So, we'll talk about all of that. But the idea is that we should be able to have that in our communities. We can all be in agreement. You know,
if I'm a licensed gun owner and he's an unarmed rent-a-cop, I'm trying to say something to me. I'm gonna stand my ground on this.
But he shouldn't have to say anything to you, right? Because you shouldn't be doing anything that would warrant him to even have to speak to you, right?
Fair. Then you get George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman comes through.
I get it, but no, I that ununiformed, unarmed part, like
But I see his vision. I like the vision though.
Yeah. I mean, they at least gotta can they get a uniform, a damn flashlights, a walkie-talkie, something?
You gotta shine some damn body.
You get some equipment.
Yeah. I like your idea, brother. And it's very possible, and we have to be able to see the possibility of things in order to actually create it. So
yeah, I think it's far more effective to well, two things would be far more effective. One, more black people, and I'm not trying to berate anybody to do it because it's not my thing. I never even occurred to me to. Well, I take that back. I did think about being a cop at one point in my life, but right now, hell no, I'm not doing it. But I do think we do need more black men to be cops. Listen. And I always mention in Detroit, it's I think like a 60% black police force. In Atlanta, it's 52%. And a lot of those really highly populated black areas, Baltimore is at like 50%. Like, yeah. So there's no reason that. So if places like that can get up to over 50, right? Then that mean it could get over 75. It can get over. And in that sense, we already doing it. Plus, like you mentioned, the police chief is black. A lot of the people in the leadership positions are black. So it's technically already being done. So I think it may be an overrated concept, but I still think it should be done. But I think a lot of times we overrate it, though. I do believe that is the case. However, it should be done. It should be done. But people underestimate to the degree that it's technically already being done in some areas. Now there is a place in New York or Brooklyn or somewhere where it's a bunch of I think the small hat people got their own little police force. You know what I'm talking about?
Orthodox Hasidic Jews. Yes.
Yeah, they got their own little thing now.
They have the right to self-determination.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I forgot what limitations are there, but it's not as many limitations. There are some situations where they do end up having to actually call the actual real cops, but they got something there to where if they could handle it in-house, it gets handled in-house. But at the end of the day, if somebody gets stabbed or shot, they got to the real boys in blue got to show up. But I think they more or less handle like little issues, little domestic disputes, and I don't know. Little stuff like that. So I think that is a thing that
they can do that because of their culture, right? The culture within their community respects that authority. You bring a flashlight cop or security guard into some black communities and he's being disrespected. So the question is it's an authority problem. It's I don't want anyone telling me what to do. When you have a culture that is understanding that we are operating under these guidelines and everyone follows them, you can have something like that. That's why I said police reform is a two-way street. We need the community and the people in our community to rise with us as we rise, right? When we raise our standards as officers, we need the community to help raise their standards as well. The police are a reflection of the community that they're policing. And so we have to remember that. You know, it's not so simple as we just change the police. We have to change behaviors from the community as well.
All right. Well, Fawcett Media, did you get to your last words, or did this whole tangent get from your last word? I don't even know what happened.
Sort of. I mean, I was going to
go ahead and wrap up. Go ahead and wrap up. And
then, yeah. I'm Fawcett Media, everybody.
Fawcett Media.
Check out my channel. I'm doing things. I'm actually an actor too, Nathan. So we got that in common as well.
I bet. I was in the Black Panther movie. I did stunts in the movie.
Oh, you did?
What?
Okay. Yeah. I knew Chadwick Boseman. Yeah.
Good dude, man. He was a good dude.
Yeah, absolutely. It hurt to lose him too. You know. I went to school with Denai Guerrero too. Yeah.
Okay, that's what's up. Yeah, we got to talk about that.
Question. Would you like Chadwick Boseman's stunt double?
Nah.
He was Killmonger. Killmonger.
Shoot, I wish there was some good roles. Now I played one of the Royal Guards who was doing fight scenes and the movie. You check on the stunts. If you go on the credits, you see my name on there, man.
Yeah, I follow Morese. What's his name? Morese Crump. What's the
Crump?
guy that did?
Okay.
Yeah.
Who did he does the yeah. He's here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
He's here in Atlanta. Yeah. I've been to his studio. We got a nice little studio.
That's what's up, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely familiar. But yeah, hey, it was great having you here. I mean, I still had one more question about the over policing in Black communities.
Okay.
And as opposed to white communities. White people don't commit. They do commit as much crime as Black people. Black people are just jailed and incarcerated disproportionately. But that would be a whole nother conversation, obviously.
Well, hold on, wait. That is an interesting one to me, because like whenever
I know it's closing thoughts, but damn.
Yeah, whenever somebody say that they commit, the same amount of crimes as Black people are jailed disproportionately.
They commit more crimes than Black people. White people commit more crimes than Black people.
What do you hold on? Wait. Okay, are you talking about more in terms of quantity or more in terms of percentage?
Quantity and percentage. It depends on what crimes we're talking about.
And that's what I was going to get into. And I don't like when we play fast and loose with that. When the crime that's being committed matters to that conversation. That's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother thing to unpack.
What do you mean? Like, you mean Black commit? You're saying, Bernard, you're saying Black people commit more serious crimes? Is that what you mean?
I
would disagree with that almost too.
I'll review I know when it comes to murder, I do know that one. And from what I looked up, I looked it up. It's been a while since I looked it up. When it comes to mugging and breaking and injuries,
those are economic crimes. You
don't matter.
Okay, so you could talk about the solution, but the fact that I'm with you on the solutions. But if we're talking about what's happening, that's a pivot from what was initially said.
Correct.
Said they commit the same amount of crimes. Then it's pointed out that these more violent crimes are being committed at a higher rate, and so obviously breaking and entries, muggings, and murders, and all of that is going to be policed different than some other things. So then I don't even know which ones that they commit more.
So violent. So what the data shows is that we do not commit the most crimes in this country. White people do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense. People would argue that they're the majority of the population. This is where it gets uncomfortable to have a conversation about. There's 60% of the population. They commit more crimes naturally, you would assume. The problem,
they're naturally going to commit more than 13% of the population.
Correct.
Correct.
The problem is Black Americans commit more of the violent offenses. That's where the problem lies, because we're 13%. So essentially, you should say that white people should commit more of all crimes. It shouldn't even matter. But the reality is, when we talk about the violent offenses, we're up there, right? We're up there more than them. We commit more murders by a lot. Just last year, I think the data I looked at may have been 2019. We're talking about 7,400 murders were African American, were Black, right? Homicides, 7,400, approximately 7,400. When we talk about whites, it was like 4,500 approximately murders, and they're 60%. But I see it to be true. I've watched our people kill each other over tennis shoes, right? Over an argument, and I have kids killing kids over arguments. So the value of how we see each other's lives mean a little to nothing when it comes to Black people in our community. And so we have to start asking those questions. Why such a small group commits so much more of the murders in comparison, right? So one of our top leading cause of death is homicide.
But I could tell you why. It's because if the Black community was on parity with the white community, there would probably be equal crime in that area, because you get rid of the economic incentive for your man to go steal the eggs at the grocery store.
But that's not why people are dying. What do you
you get rid of the drug sales, the crime, the gang violence. All that stuff is related to money. Like,
yes and no.
That's why the argument for reparations is more important than people say it is. But like I said,
No.
this is a whole nother discussion.
It is. We got to talk about that though, but
The-
we can't let people leave with that statement, right? And
The
we can't
argument
just leave.
for better economics and better building more businesses and employing more black people that will solve that problem. But it's still
Well,
a
that's what I'm saying.
cultural.
If
The
everybody had
problem
jobs, they
is-
wouldn't be down
yeah.
there doing that type of crime.
No.
Yeah,
Because
it's-
the issue with murder is behavior. It's not because what's happening is there's a multitude of problems with that. The reparations has nothing to do with why people in our community are killing each other, right? I know.
I can draw the direct lineation between the financial situation and those crimes that are resulting in murders.
That's
Absolutely.
If people was breaking in people's houses to steal bread, then I could go with
The
you.
wolves is out right now because of the financial situation has deepened and it's gotten worse.
And
that's why it's getting more violent right now.
But that's a choice, because here's the problem with that. I know able-bodied young black men and women who are committing crimes not because they can't get a job, but because they don't want to work. See, so when we start breaking down these nuances, that's why I don't like those arguments, because these aren't, again, I can respect a person who broke into my house stealing my stuff because they're saving up for college tuition, right? Versus the person who's robbing and stealing because they want to buy damn Jordan tennis shoes. See, there's a difference. I see guys robbing the bank because they want to take that money and trick off at the strip club. That's a difference. So there's a difference in someone committing crime because they're trying to survive and versus somebody committing crime because they want to flex.
Well, then you can say the same thing about white people flexing.
We're not talking about white people.
White collar crime is the exact same.
We're not. But listen. I hear what you're saying, but we're not talking about white people. And
okay, white collar or scammers
or white collar. But the reality, what we're talking about, are what our community is doing. And I love having the conversation on both sides, but I don't want to distract from this particular conversation. Is the issue is I get a chance to see exactly what we are doing from start to finish and the reason why we are doing it. We have brothers and sisters who come from great homes, who have parents who are working really hard, who come out here and want to join gangs and do all kind of things and blow college tuition and full scholarships so that they can live a certain lifestyle. I see women, young girls who are prostituting and getting OnlyFans pages and putting themselves in position to make money through sex simply because they don't want to work, right? So when we start looking at these individual circumstances, you start seeing that it's not what it appears to be. And so that's why we have to be careful, because we're then missing out and not addressing the real issues. It's the mentality, right? This insatiable appetite for attention, to be something that we're not. We want to follow what we see on social media, entertainers. We have a lot of people in our community that are very capable of putting ourselves in leadership positions, but choose to chase dollars over progress. That's the problem. We're so concerned about these materialistic things that we lose sight on the things that really matter, that can really build our community. Again, we have capable, able-bodied people who choose not to do it, not because they're struggling. A lot of us are not struggling like we claim we are. We want fast money. That's what I see. That's what I've been seeing. There's rare occasions I've seen people where they're so down and out and they're living on the street and they got to commit. I see homeless people that don't commit the crimes, that educated and well-to-do, well jobs, had the ability to work. People do. Homeless people don't commit some of the damn crimes that some of us who are educated and able are doing against our own people. So I have to push back on that.
Fawcett Media, when you talk about that, bringing black people and white people in some parity, not equal. I mean, they didn't mean to say evil. Some equal level. How much more money do you think the average white person makes than the average black person?
Well, I mean, right now we're experiencing one of the greatest wealth transfers of all time. From the baby boomers generation to the white millennial is huge. So there's so much money. I think the last figure was 27 trillion has been transferred into.
No. I said the average white person make. How much money do you think the average white?
Oh yeah, so it's not about income.
To what a black person.
It's not about income. It's about wealth. So,
that's why. Do you know? Just do you? I mean, it's okay to not know.
No, I know.
Okay, so what is it? I mean, so just let's
if
make
there
sure
was a program that started about $14 trillion has been the figure that's been floated.
No,
actually,
I'm not talking about wealth. I'm not talking. I know. I'm saying that when you were talking about money and income, average white person is making like $900 more per month.
Yeah, but
something
that's
like
not
that. It comes out to 10,000. Okay, so more
because
wealth,
black
like
people make that same type of money, right? You understand?
Okay,
right?
so grandmama and them passing down the house that they bought in the 50s that's worth $250,000 now. Yes, being able to pass that down, that matters. Okay, I'll give you that, but that's where most of the wealth comes from. Is tied up in homes and property and buying property. I get that. I understand that. But when you're saying that it's I can't go that far to say that that my dad not passing me down a house is that's a determining factor in whether or not a person is going to be committing crimes or not committing crimes. I mean,
Exactly.
like that can't be that's not the determining factor.
I mean, I think you would be less likely to. You'd be less likely to.
No. Here's the problem. The problem is, again, in our community is
but then our business too, the media has a problem with that too. We're also making the gangster the big man on campus, or whatever.
The problem is our culture is broken. We have a very toxic
that's where I'm at with it.
The issue in our community is a lot of our problems are self-inflicted, right? A lot of our issues are self-inflicted. You can't claim white supremacy. You can't claim white people are the problem, and then you turn around and beg them to fix it, right? Why would, if you think this person is your enemy, you claim that white people are racist, and then you turn around and ask them to fix the same problem you're complaining that they created? It doesn't make sense. Not you, but you mentioned reparations.
Well, yeah.
You mentioned reparations. So again, here's the thing. There's a cultural problem that needs to be examined. There's an issue in the culture. Mind you, I've worked through and through our community, right? I've worked through and through. I've seen a lot. I see a community. There's portions of our community that's brainwashed, right? That's living and saturating ourselves in a bunch of lies. We're easily manipulated by political figures. We're easily manipulated. We put on a pedestal entertainers and athletes. The problem is, who are our leaders? We look for entertainers and athletes as leaders. We despise and we disrespect those who are intellects in our community, right? We're not looking at them as people to lead us. We want to be led by rappers.
But are we looking at them, or are they being given to us?
No one can give you anything.
That's exactly what's happening. You don't
hold
You don't get an
time out.
alternative.
If Nathan is saying that the culture is broken and we need to reject what's being given to us, and listen, that's he's saying what's right. I'm not going to complain about what's being given. If we're saying that this thing that's being given, it needs to be rejected.
But they're not giving us Bernards, and they're not giving us Nathans.
That's not.
We have to make it. We're making this ourselves now.
No. Here's the problem. No. You're fine. The issue is that here's the problem. The problem is us as a community. We're responsible for our own image. If you go on Google right now and type in gangster, you type in thug, what's going to pull up? A bunch of black faces, Hispanic faces. We have coined that image on ourselves. People can't give us anything. The only power someone has over us is the power that we give them. And so the reality is, black people have a lot of power. We spend over $1 trillion, but can never save half of that. The reality is we allow ourselves to be manipulated. The truth can be presented in front of us and we call it lies. People call me a slave catcher because I'm a police officer. Make that make sense. The community calls me an Uncle Tom, and Uncle Tom was the hero in Uncle Tom's Cabin. We say things out of ignorance and we don't take the time to do research. We're so easily manipulated by warlocks who speak words of confusion over us, right? Like, so the reality is we are allowing this to happen. We have complete control over everything. I was watching a video one time of Bobby Shmurda. He was doing a performance in front of a crowd of a conference room of white people. He was performing his rap lyrics. He was standing on the table. His lyrics were, "Yeah, I'm selling drugs. I'm gonna shoot your mama's house. I'm shooting your mama, then I'm coming for you." This is the type of shit that we're seeing and we're speaking into the lives of our children, right? In our community. They're repeating those lyrics. Someone said that was a good idea for him to say. They promoted that. They promoted that message. Listen, they had a whole TV show about the what is it, Black Mafia family.
Hold on, who said Bobby on top of a table was a good idea?
No one said, but that's not the point. Is he got a record deal, and he's performing in front of white people
at a white corporation.
At a white corporation, right? And guess who's spending money to listen to that music? Guess who's uplifting that message in our community? Guess who's trying to emulate his lifestyle? Our children, our Black men and women, right? We talk about glorifying the song WAP, right? We're promoting this sexual promiscuous nature within our women, within our men, right? So we're talking about all these different things. These things are deteriorating our community. Why is that? Because we struggle to separate entertainment from reality. We can't even watch reality TV without trying to emulate that lifestyle. I stay in Atlanta. I see the foolery all the time, you guys.
Oh, yeah, I know.
The reality is we are allowing this entertainment we're becoming one with it. It's toxic. It's destroying our communities.
That's how powerful it is. The industry that we're walking into right now, entertainment, is our face to the world.
Of course it is.
It's that important. Is that
what's Jonathan talking about? Shout out to JB.
Yeah, well, shout out to Jonathan. He said Nathan is speaking facts. Personally, I know ninjas who grew up in stable, loving nuclear families and decide to become hood boogers. Accountability is important.
Facts.
And Rod, what you talking about, man? I rock with your Rod, but you say it's crazy. It's like synthetic G in a black man's skin suit. No, we talking about being accountable and not making excuses for the stuff. If somebody gonna say a lack of passed down generational wealth is the reason why people are committing crimes, I say bullshit on that. I say if generational wealth is the issue, okay, roll your sleeves up, buy a house, pass it down to your family. Like let's work to fix the problems. Like, you know, I don't do the excuse and the victim narrative and what them did to us. That's where I'm at with it, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm not going to make excuses for the bad behavior, the things that's within our hands to fix.
No, it's not
right.
about
so I can't roll with that. I can't rock with that. We're not just beating up on black. No, I don't get the comparison you're making. I don't nowhere near get that comparison.
Because I agree with a lot of the things you all say. Despite the fact that I've been adversarial, I'm now the devil's advocate.
No.
But, I'm here for a reason.
What you're saying matters, though. What we're saying is that there's again, this is a cube of a problem. This problem is a cube. You're speaking to one side of a cube that it needs to be addressed. You can't dismiss the fact that economics plays a huge role in the development. But what do we not practice as a people? Group economics. Right? Group economics. Sure. So the reality is, does this have a healthy practicing economics and wealth transfer? It does matter for the benefit and the betterment of our community, because we can make better decisions, we can control more institutions that way. So in return, we get to control institutions like education, right? We complain about education, but we can't even control what's being taught in our own schools. So when we talk about controlling wealth, allows us to control our own institutions, which is important, and in turn allows us to make changes in a lot of things. But I will say this, though, if we had the power to say we're not going to buy or to invest in certain music, certain entertainment, certain clothes paraphernalia, the pushback we would get from our community would be great. So the reality is, if we acknowledge that something is not healthy for us, like food, we still have people who will challenge that. We have people in our community who are one cheeseburger away from dying, right? What is our leading cause of death in our community?
Obesity.
Exactly.
Blood pressure.
But when we get to the point, listen, but we get to the point though when they will blame us being overweight off they will say, oh well, it's environmental, or it's
because a sweetie got a burger deal at
No,
McDonald's.
they said it was Trump.
Yeah, they'll say it's Donald Trump. They'll blame
Megan Thee
that
Stallion.
the food deserts or
Right.
vegetables cost too high, as if lettuce in fucking that lettuce they
But they don't
giving
sell
that
that
shit
at
away.
they don't sell it at the grocery store.
You can buy a head of lettuce for damn near 78 cents. Like, the bananas are cheap. Like, what is we talking about here? You don't get that fat from having bad food choices. You get that fat from stuffing too much food in your damn mouth. And if you got that much food to stuff in your mouth, you're not starving, and poverty is not making you starve and get overweight. Like, no, you're getting overweight because you got an overabundance. Only kings were that damn fat back in the day. You living like a king. Like, no, I reject a lot of the excuses that we make.
Yeah.
Hey, you ever notice how the world's greatest athletes come out of these food deserts?
Yeah.
Like the world's greatest athletes come out of the same food deserts that the fattest bitches in the world come out of. You ever notice that?
That's genetics, though. A lot of that is
genetics. So it's genetics. It's genetics that a brother is a basketball player while his little sister is fat as hell. That's not genetics, sir. That's something different. They eat from the same table. That's something different.
But she doesn't work out. She doesn't play sports.
So it's not genetics. So let's not say genetics. They have the same genes, brother. Let's not do that.
Well, I mean, they have the same genes, but obviously they're nurturing them in different ways. That's what I'm
so
saying. You're predisposed. Your genes are predisposed to be more athletic.
What I'm saying is it's not genetics. It's not. You know, she's fat.
You would have similar results.
It's not genetics.
Got you right, guy. Got you right, guy. No problem. Got you. GC, what prompted you to come? I was about to end the show, but when you asked for the link, I said, all right, I'm going to go ahead and extend it out a little more. Go ahead. Go ahead, GC. What prompted you to come on up?
Well, I wanted to share a theory with the officer here, if I may. Okay. So, as far as the culture goes, I think that there was a time in Black history where many of our ancestors believed that it's in our best interest to be as annoying as legally possible. And I'll explain why. If you look at things like white flight and, things like that, I think that they felt that if you want something for yourself, become obnoxious, wait for the white people to leave, and then gather other people around. This is how you create a Black community. That is how many Black communities were created, by being repulsive to others who would be in the community. It's like the reverse of gentrification. I think that mentality was the spark of a lot of the obnoxious behavior that we have today. Now, the problem is that once the community was created, the behavior didn't stop and we began to repulse each other, which is why, you have things like the rappers on the table singing some, nonsense that, seems appealing to others, but really is just nonsense. And it's repulsive to anybody with sense. What are your thoughts on that theory?
I think that's an interesting theory. I would say I see what you're trying to say, and like all theories, let's break that down. What you're saying is this was I would say that's not accurate, right? Because from what I understand with history, Black people were just trying to live, right? They were just trying to live and get along. They didn't really want any problems. So they start going into certain communities where it was predominantly white, or it was all white, and they are living in that community just to just do their thing, not wanting to be bothered. And they were harassed, they were mistreated. And because their presence was there and it wasn't wanted, you had white people starting to leave because of that. So I don't think it was
Why wasn't it wanted?
Well, because of racism.
You think it's that simple? They didn't want their presence simply because they were, or was it okay? So let's go up the theory that
No, let's stay with the theory that you already started with.
No, I'm talking about the sub theory that white people don't like Black simply because they don't like Black skin. And then I want to debunk that and say I think that it's a collection of behaviors that Black people possess that makes us disliked by others.
Well,
okay, go for it.
The problem with that theory is that one, that's not accurate either, because like in any racial group, you're gonna have a small batch of bad people. So there's a small batch of bad white people in their own communities back then, and same thing with the black community. So the problem was, you have to remember, black people were being marketed as not being good people. They were being marketed. But at the same time, you're talking about real systemic racism. And that time that they had control over the media and showing people in blackface and things like that, saying, hey, these community people, we don't want them around. We're talking about segregation. We're talking about black codes, Jim Crow. So they had the laws were against black people. So there was a hatred, in a sense, that some white people had against African Americans. And so a lot of things were rooted in that. The relationship was very broken, obviously, right? So when you talk about what was the mentality like, you can assume a white person can assume that, okay, I'm looking at a black person, they have to be bad because that's how it was taught. That's what's being marketed. But the reality was, black people were minding their business. And so what happened was, if they were to go into a community and you have a group of people in that community who had an assumption, they were prejudiced for whatever reason, what they were taught, those things were taught to them, then you're going to have a negative interaction. So of course, they made decisions based off of what they were taught, or they made decisions off of their perception, assuming that having a black person present means that the quality of their community was going to drop. And that wasn't true. And I think that, again, those who control the media can control the perception of people. And I think that's where, in my opinion, a lot of that negative thought process assisted with, you would say, white people feeling that way, in reference to your theory.
Okay, so I see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I don't understand. So according to you, they went to these communities and were well-behaved, upstanding citizens. The white people left when they were well-behaved, upstanding citizens. And then for whatever reason, after being well-behaved, upstanding citizens, they decided to be jackasses. Why did that happen?
So what you're, I see what point you're trying to make, but mind you, let's talk about the mentality of the people who felt disgusted to be around black people. We're talking about people who, after slavery was abolished, could not leave black people alone, right? Black people started developing their own communities. They were harassed in their communities. They weren't allowed to have certain things. They were tormented. Okay, they were mistreated. I don't think black people they knew in that moment that if you even whistled at a white woman, that there's a probability that you can be harmed.
Game
right?
changer. What you were talking about were you going all the way back to Jim Crow? Because I know I can find no fault in what black people were doing post-slavery and in between civil rights movement and post-slavery. I got no fault or criticism there.
No, I'm not talking about the Jim Crow. I'm not talking about the Jim Crow era, and perhaps I'm speaking of a history that of a place that really didn't have.
So
Jim Crow
let's talk about a time. Let's talk about
a
time.
What I mean when I say is, as annoying as legally possible, there was a time where we weren't legally allowed to be annoying. So that statement would span all time periods. But I'm saying that once we became legally capable of annoying the crap out of other people, we began to do so. Now, I mean,
black people aren't annoying anybody. So that theory doesn't fit well.
I'm sorry. You're saying that the rank and file black person isn't annoying?
No,
definitely not as annoying as Karen.
Yeah, can you show me some data that supports that black people are annoying?
Well, I can just go to the hood and record the sounds that come at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then we can start from there.
Okay. All right. We going round and round. I think what he's referring to is, what the hell was that? A siren?
That's probably an annoying black person.
No, so cut it out, GC. No, I think he was referring to all the stuff that you just recently said a minute ago, Nathan, about the black community. When you police in the black community, like you've acknowledged the problems, that the violent crimes and a lot of stuff is higher. So I mean, yeah. So I think he's more or less saying that there was some element of that was brought in other communities, and then the people moved out. It was called white flight. We understand that this happens. I mean, we talk about in California. I don't know what specific cities, but it got kind of overran by Mexicans, and they was being some savages and barbaric, and even it was some black flight. Black people moved out, got out of Dodge because somebody else came in being
South LA.
So,
I
see how y'all acknowledge. Oh yeah, South
No,
LA.
the problem,
y'all acknowledge it when I talk about the Mexicans coming over the border being savages. We understand it. So I think
the problem.
They wasn't savages.
The problem was he was having a disingenuous approach.
I can get with the initial premise, the way he set it up. I was kind of side eyeing that, but I think I understand where he was trying to go. I don't like how he set it up. I can agree with you on that.
Correct. Okay, but no, okay, fair enough. The setup was off, but similar to the Mexicans,
the setup was horrible.
Similar to the Mexicans, the people in the past have their own communities, as the Mexicans do now. They wanted a community absent other cultural groups and cultural influence, and they used tactics that was bothersome to the people, to other cultural influences to obtain that. That's the theory. I think that at one point, that's what we did, and then later we became repulsive to each other.
No, that's too much of a sophisticated plan. I don't think that's what actually happened. Could you imagine what he's saying is, say I get a group of an ethnic group, and I say we want to take over this block. So let's move in and just start being completely rude,
banging pots and pans.
Yeah, cause a lot of problems and force people out of the community so we can take the community over. And then, okay, say that was the plan. And then you do that, and then you start self-destructing within your own community. Then that's not a plan. I don't think
a game changer. Do you think it was a plan, or do you think it just kind of happened?
No, he thinks it was a plan that went wrong, and that's.
Do you think it was a plan that went wrong, or do you just think it just?
I think it was a group of individuals with a collective goal. However, they didn't communicate. However, they didn't communicate that goal to each other.
But game changer. You think black people are annoying?
I'm just saying that's what happened.
He's
saying think black people are annoying, game changer?
I'm sorry?
Do you think black people
I think
in general are annoying?
I think the dominant black culture is annoying, yes.
Okay.
I mean, are you what's your ethnicity, game changer?
I'm African American.
Okay, how come you don't cam up?
I met people in private, but my professional life requires that I don't.
Understood. What state do you live in?
California.
And where were you born?
Oakland.
Okay. All right. So it makes sense. So you believe, what do you think is the solution for repairing a lot of the things that you say are annoying that occurs in the black community? What do you think is a good solution?
Well, I think that first we have to start with bringing back the family structure. Second, we need to.
You had both parents growing up?
My parents were divorced.
Okay.
However, I did have both of them.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So after that, then we change the outward image of black people so we can have better commerce with other ethnic groups.
Okay.
Better relationships, and we can build forward without having to worry about being repulsive to others. Okay. Let's see.
Stop right there. So game changer, let me ask you something. You come off to be a very wise individual, and you come off to be someone that understands the power of words. And if you understand the power of words, you know that it's not sometimes what we say, but how we say it. Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct.
So do you believe that sometimes if we lead inappropriately with a certain type of word choices, that it can create more division, or you can then come off as someone that yourself becomes more annoying and irritating because of the choice of words that we use? Do you agree?
I agree that you're calling me annoying, but
no. I'm not calling you annoying because I understand what you're saying. But what I'm saying to you is that sometimes when we have dialogue with others, we can then start to become the same thing that we're claiming other people are and not realize it. And what I say to you is, it's not always what you say, but how you say it. And if you want to gain ground and truly become a voice of change, then you have to be mindful of how you come off. You have to be mindful of the words that you use because words have power.
I tell you what, brother. How should I have expressed my theory?
I would say first, get with a group of people who don't agree with you, but do look like you, and express your opinions to them. And these are people that you trust, and let them correct your tone. And I think that sometimes we mean well, but we come off the wrong way. And that's something that just comes with time, with practice, and with a humble heart. Being humble enough, right, to remove ego when we're trying to repair situations, when we want to address certain things. I say anytime you want to come, you call yourself game changer. I'm assuming you have a lot of ideas that can change the game. I don't doubt it. But what I do believe, though, is that when you get with people who can show you how to do it in a way that's effective, we don't want to waste any more of our brothers going about it the wrong way. I believe that in your mind, you have a lot of good visions. But here's the thing. What I heard today from someone who has, I hear that you have a lot of ideas, but I believe that you're on the right train, but you're on the wrong track, if that makes sense. You follow me?
All right.
But help me understand.
Well,
y'all holding me hostage.
Hey, game changer. Shoot me an email. You know, I'm a guest on the show, so I can't.
I tell you what, I got my own show.
Then I'll jump on yours.
Huh?
Shoot me an email, game changer.
Yeah, y'all connect. Your email is visible on your channel, right, Nathan?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so so y'all can go find each other's emails and y'all can talk. Y'all probably will have a good conversation. Y'all both
a game changer.
Yeah,
no
game
doubt.
changer
is a good dude.
Definitely. All right. Fawcett and game changer. I'm gonna drop y'all on down. I'm gonna let Nathan get his final words because I got to get up out of here,
brother. Shoot me an email, too, bro.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Peace, everybody. Peace. All right, go ahead. Hey, man. Great
I'm
show.
sorry, brother.
Great show. No. You good. Great show today. Absolutely great show. Definitely enjoyed it. Definitely enjoyed your perspective. You changed the game in my whole thought process when it comes to policing when you said they can reduce the number of police officers in the force and put that money towards investigators. That's where it's at right there. Like that, I never thought about that, never heard of that concept. I think that will actually work So that's something that probably need to be pushed for. That's something need to be pushed for. So yeah, I definitely look into that more. So you definitely knocked it out the park. So go ahead. You got the floor. You got the mic for the last words. You got it.
Again, Bernard, thank you for just giving me the opportunity to speak. Thank you for the platform. I really appreciate even the content that you put out and things that you're doing. Just giving men a voice to speak and just express. We don't have enough of that. So I really appreciate that. And to everybody watching, you guys, I know there's a lot of issues with law enforcement, but I'm opening up the door for communication so that we can talk, have honest dialogue about the pros and the cons. And let's talk about reimagining it. And let's be honest. Let's have an honest conversation, you guys. I love the idea on my channel. If you go to Nathan Daley through YouTube, you can find me. We talk about a lot. And so I'm here to help. I call myself the translator for law enforcement and for the citizens that we serve. Again, you guys, this is an opportunity for us to make some changes. This is an opportunity while we have the chance to promote a healthy dialogue between both sides. And we work better together than we do apart. So again, thank you, Bernard. Thank you for the audience for watching. The questions were amazing, great questions. If some of those that we missed, feel free to email me. I don't shy away from questions. And again, I do have some amazing ideas. And they might not be perfect, but it's something new. And I think everyone is asking for something new. Can we reimagine policing? And I think we can. I think we can do it. So, and with you guys' support, help spread the word, help spread the channel. And look forward to many more of these conversations.
All right. Shout out to E Capone. Thank you, brother, for coming on through. Thank you, everybody. Shout out to E Capone. Thank you for the super chat, but thank you, Nathan, for coming on through. I do appreciate that. And real quick, Body Thug, you keep saying Bernard never seen The Wire. I thought all that police investigation, them showing up in suits to investigate stuff, I thought that was only in the movies. I didn't think it was a real thing. All right. Anyway. Shout out to everybody in the building. Appreciate each and every one of you. Rather you like, share, subscribe, whatever you did to. So I picked up some new subscribers. All the new subscribers, thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you to the people that Cash App. I'm trying to look at y'all right now. I know I got KD scrolling down there at the bottom, and I think somebody else sent the Cash App. Let me find that real fast. It was nope. That was it. KD was the only one that sent the Cash App. And again, thank you everybody. We are out of here. Peace. We gone.